Temperature by Rent-to-Kill is
30 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 out west in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robianne Williams.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Indicom probing 22 fatal shootings by the security forces since the start of the year.
58 people murdered across the country up to yesterday.
Attorneys for Ribbies issues warning about rumors circulating on social media following the shooting death of one of its former employees.
In time, it will be revealed that this matter has nothing to do with Ribbies Ultra Lounge as a business.
Opposition leader Mark Golding says the PNP has not boycotted the Joint Select Committee examining the bill to make Jamaica a republic.
Revered academic and educator Professor Sir Roy Augier has died.
In news from the rest of the world, Haitian leader says the Trump administration's plans will be catastrophic for his country.
Israel says 8 hostages due to be freed in first phase of ceasefire are dead.
In headline sports, West Indies to end under-19 T20 Women's World Cup campaign tonight.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, Chairman of the Fiscal Advisory Committee Keith Duncan is warning that there's no fiscal space in the budget for the government to give away goodies during the upcoming budget presentation. He'll join us. We'll also hear from Chartered Accountant Dennis Chung.
In public opinion at 6:26, we ask, should persons over 75 serve in the Jamaican Parliament? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide News, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio Jamaica, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, St. James has recorded 4 murders since the start of the year. That's a 66% decline when compared to the same period in 2024. How has the parish, once dubbed the most murderous police division, managed to bring down its murder tally? Commanding Officer for the division, Superintendent Aaron Samuels, will join us.
And at 7, it's Seismic Dialogue, a segment dedicated to promoting earthquake preparedness and safety.
Also at 7, prominent Caribbean historian and educator Professor Roy Augier has died at 100. Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, and Professor Emerita of History and Gender Studies at UWI-Mona, Vereen Shepherd, will join us. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio JM.com, and on the Nationwide app. Available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, it's Monday, January 27, 2024. 2025.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. The Independent Commissioner of Investigations, Indicom, has investigated 22 fatalities involving the security forces since the start of 2025. This follows the latest police fatal shooting on Mountain View Avenue in St. Andrew on Monday. The dead man has been identified as 55-year-old Eric Shakespeare. Shakespeare was shot and killed in an alleged confrontation with the police. Commissioner of Indicom, Hugh Faulkner, says the Commission's investigative team visited the crime scene.
The police report carrying out a targeted operation on Mountain View Avenue, wherein they breached a bedroom door and allegedly confronted a man with a firearm pointed at the police. A law enforcement officer reportedly discharged his firearm. Mr. Shakespeare sustained what appeared to be gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead at the Kingston Public Hospital, where he was taken. The police report that a firearm and ammunition were recovered at the scene. For 2025, Indicom has investigated 22 fatalities involving the security forces.
But residents are disputing the police's account of the incident. Sections of Mountain View Avenue were blocked by angry residents who set fire to debris scattered across the roadway. The police advised motorists to expect delays and to use other routes. Mr. Faulkner is encouraging the residents to participate in the investigative process by providing any information relating to the shooting.
In addition to the report of the police, Indicom invites members of the public who witnessed the incident or any part of the incident to provide any video recording, photos, or information related to the operation that they may possess. The Commission may be contacted by WhatsApp at 876-553-0000 or contact the Office of the Commission at 876-968-1932.
Hugh Faulkner, the Commissioner of Indicom.
58 people have been killed across the island between January 1 and 25. The figure is one murder down from the 59 recorded in the corresponding period last year. It represents a near 2% decline. That's according to the latest crime statistics from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF. St. Andrew South now leads the country with the most murders in any police division, 13. The division is followed by St. Catherine South with 10 murders. 8 divisions recorded an increase in murders since the start of the year. They are St. Mary, Clarendon, Kingston East, Kingston West, St. Andrew Central, St. Andrew South, St. Andrew North, and St. Catherine South. Portland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Kingston Central, Trelawney, and Trelawney have had no murders since the start of the year. In the meantime, shootings have declined by 30% compared to the corresponding period last year. Other major crimes, such as robberies, rapes, and break-ins, also continue to decline.
The commanding officer for Westmoreland, Superintendent Othniel Dobson, says the continued use of a zone of special operations ZOZO in the division has significantly contributed to a reduction in murders. Superintendent Dobson was speaking with Prime Minister Andrew Holness during a recent tour of the parish.
3 years ago, the Savamar police area recorded 38 murders. Then it came down to 28. Last year, 13, with only 3 occurring within the zone of special operation, only 2 by gun. 1 was a stabbing incident. We love the tool, it's working well. Without the tool, it would have been a more dangerous place for us. We continue to work along with our military counterparts, and we expect an even much better year this year within the Savamar zones of special operations.
The zone of special operation was declared in Savannah-Lamar in 2022. The security measure was declared in the parish after the police noted a spike in murders the previous year due to gang violence. According to the JCF's crime report on January 25, Westmoreland recorded one murder, According to the JCF's crime report released on January 25, Westmoreland has recorded one murder since the start of the year. Superintendent Dobson says the reduction in crime can also be attributed to increased allocation of training and resources.
We have had a 19% reduction in overall crimes last year. And overall, we are seeing much better figures. We are seeing a more motivated police force that is in receipt of resources. We have had at least 120 odd persons trained at level 2 at specialized operation, which has given us that extra kick as it relates to our fight on crime. Additionally, we have gotten vehicles that will continue to assist us in policing the area.
Superintendent Othniel Dobson, the commanding officer for the Westmoreland Police Division.
A Jamaica Defence Force private was shot and killed in a gun attack on Malines Road in Kingston on Monday. He's since been identified as 26-year-old Fernando Wayne Dixon. Private Dixon, who was attacked by 2 gunmen on a motorcycle, managed to plow his vehicle into them. The gunmen died on the spot as a result of injuries sustained. In a video circulating on social media, Private Dixon's body can be seen slumped over the steering wheel of a silver Audi. The 2 gunmen are seen lying on the ground. Private Dixon was transported to Kingston Public Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. 2 firearms, including an M16 rifle, were seized at the scene. The 2 suspects remain unidentified. Head of the Area 4 Police, Acting ACP Michael Phipps, says the incident may have stemmed from an ongoing feud. That should be an ongoing gang feud. ACP Phipps says 2 men who go by the aliases Moshi Goshi and Whizzle has been listed as persons of interest in connection with the incident.
We, at this time, are seeking 2 other persons of interest. One goes by the name of Moshi Goshi and Whizzle. we believe that these persons can assist us in our investigations regarding this particular incident. And we are therefore asking them to report to the RFA3 CIB by 6 p.m. today.
Acting ACP Michael Phipps, head of the Area 4 Police.
The management of Ribby's Ultra Lounge in St. Andrews says it's fully cooperating with investigations into the shooting death of one of its former employees, Jermaine Richards. Richards was reportedly shot dead by an off-duty policeman in the lounge's parking lot sometime after 4 last Thursday morning. His relatives and friends have protested the killing. They are demanding more from the company. But attorney for Ribby's, Dimitri Adams, says the management has been cooperating with the probe.
We have, since the incident, met with, cooperated. We have literally provided everything requested by the necessary bodies, and there has been nothing held back from these investigatory bodies when asked to provide. So the directors have been extremely cooperative with the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Independent Commission of Investigations.
The company is extending sympathies to the family of Mr. Richards. Since the fatal shooting, several rumors have been circulating on social media. Adams is warning those circulating unverified information that they run the risk of defaming the owners of Ribby's and damaging the brand.
We are truly sympathetic to the family and the loved ones of Mr. Richards at this time, but on the other hand, there is an interest in protecting the name of Ribby's as a commercial brand and its directors as individuals. Because in time it will be revealed that this matter has nothing to do with Ribby's Ultra Lounge as a business.
Dimitri Adams, attorney at law, he was speaking with Nationwide News today.
Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice JFJ, Michael Jackson, has expressed concern that the opposition PNP will reject the constitutional amendment Republic Bill once it reaches the Senate. This after the opposition PNP were a no-show at last Tuesday's sitting of the Joint Select Committee of Parliament that's examining the act. Ms. Jackson was speaking on the JFJ-produced program Let's Talk Justice on Nationwide 90 FM on Monday.
Where do we go from here? Because if there is a rejection at the Senate, given that you need 2/3 majority vote at both lower house and the Senate, you know that based on government numbers, that 2/3 majority vote already exists at the lower house. But at the upper house, you need at least one opposition member to agree with this bill. Based on the signal being sent by the parliamentary opposition, I don't think we can look forward to that.
The opposition says it will not return to the committee unless they get answers from the government regarding the country's final court. Opposition members have the power to reject the bill once it reaches the Senate. However, once there's a Senate rejection, the bill would automatically go back to the lower house before being resent to the upper house for voting. If the bill is rejected for a second time, it can be put directly to a referendum. In expressing her personal views, Ms. Jackson urged the opposition members to return to the Joint Select Committee.
If you pose questions to the minister at the Joint Select Committee, you must go back to the Joint Select Committee to have those questions answered.
Absolutely.
And boycotting is one thing, but remember you have the power at Senate to reject. Go to the meetings. That's my personal opinion. That's not the official position of JFJ. I haven't spoken to the board on that. But my personal opinion is that the parliamentary opposition members should go, be a part of the process and ensure, because if it bypasses you and goes straight to the referendum based on the timelines, you're going to have a bill being passed that may have things in there that you could have made some changes around. I can't understand it.
Michael Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ.
You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
Value Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Value Drug Pharmacy is...
It's 14 minutes after 5.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited and its subsidiary, Environmental Science and Technology Limited. Be prepared to drop, cover, and hold on in the likely event of aftershocks. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited and its subsidiary, Environmental Science and Technology Limited. Telephone 876-929-0023.
Continuing the news, Opposition Leader Mark Golding says the PNP has not boycotted the Joint Select Committee of Parliament that's examining the Constitutional Amendment Republic Bill. Mr. Golding sought to make the clarification after his members failed to show at last Tuesday's sitting.
You can't just leave the king as your head of state and keep the king's court as the final court of this country, where our constitution is them say what it mean. Our laws is them say how it go. And we supposed to be sovereign and independent. No. And if you ever have to carry a case up there, unless you're a multi-millionaire, you can never take a case to the Privy Council unless somebody up in England who have money, sorry for you, and pay for your legal fees. In the meantime, we have the Caribbean Court of Justice. It is accessible. You don't need the visa to go there like you have to go to London. We have not boycotted this Joint Select Committee.
The PNP president was speaking at a party meeting in St. Mary on Sunday. He'd given the government an ultimatum that he would withdraw his caucus from the committee if the Prime Minister did not address the matter of Jamaica's final appellate court. The opposition has been voicing its support for the Caribbean Court of Justice to be the country's final court, but the government has yet to give an ultimate decision on the matter. Mr. Golding says the PNP is willing to resume its position on the committee once the matter is addressed by the Prime Minister.
I have said we want to know what the government's position is, and we want to hear it from the Prime Minister as to why he wants to continue with a system where the Jamaican people don't have effective access to their final court. We are saying we're leaving the monarchy, we're leaving them fully. Full decolonization now. Jamaica must stand up and take its place in the world with pride. Marcus Garvey, just get him exoneration or him pardon. And we must have the pride in ourselves to know that we can build institutions of quality that look about the interests of our people. So I say, we are not boycotting that committee. But until the Prime Minister, who has been promised for over a year to say what his position is on this issue, comes to the Jamaican people and explains his position, we are pausing our participation on that committee.
That's Mark Golding, the PNP president.
Nationwide News understands that former President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Patrick Brooks, has been appointed to the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. Justice Brooks's appointment as an independent commissioner took effect on Monday. He replaces retired Justice Carl Harrison, who stepped down from the commission in December last year. Brooks retired from the Court of Appeal in July last year. He had served on the court since 2021. In 2020, he was appointed its president. Prior to his service as an appellate judge, Justice Brooks served as a puisne judge. Justice Brooks joins Earl Jarrett, Maurice Barnes, and former Chief Justice Zayla McCullough as independent commissioners. The commission's membership also includes politically appointed commissioners Andre Franklin, Tom Tavares Finson, Dr. Dayton Campbell, and Wensworth Skeffrey. The Director of Elections, Glasspool Brown, is an ex officio member of the commission. Commissioners are paid more than $20 million annually.
And just a correction, Justice Brooks served on the Court of Appeal since 2012.
Indeed. The Caribbean and the world have lost a revered academic and educator who helped shape the modern foundation of the region's education system. Professor Sir Roy Auger passed away peacefully at his home on Sunday. He was 100 years old. Ricardo Brooks tells us more.
Born Fitzroy Richard Auger on December 17, 1924 in St. Lucia, Sir Roy's remarkable journey in the academic world began in 1954. He joined the University of the West Indies UWI Mona campus as a junior research fellow at the Institute of Social and Economic Research. Over the decades, his contributions to education and Caribbean history were unparalleled, leaving an indelible mark on the region. Professor Auger's career at UWI spanned many pivotal roles. He served as Dean of the Faculty of Arts and General Studies, From 1967 to 1972, acting principal of the Cayville campus, and pro-vice chancellor from 1972 to 1990. His leadership at UWI, combined with his extensive scholarship, made him an influential figure in the development of higher education throughout the Caribbean. A respected historian, Sir Roy co-authored several landmark texts in Caribbean history, including The Making of the West Indies 1960 and Sources of West Indian History 1962, The Report on the Rastafarian Movement 1961. These texts have shaped the understanding of the Caribbean's rich cultural and social heritage.
The context is to be found really in a short description of how Rastafarians got established in Jamaica. The link with Garvey is obvious, and it has to be understood particularly because it affects the later Rasta connection to the Eastern Caribbean, down to Guyana.
Perhaps most significantly, Sir Roy's work laid the groundwork for the establishment of the Caribbean Examinations Council, the CXC, where he became known as Mr. CXC. His visionary leadership played an instrumental role in developing the CXC as a regional body, and it continues to serve as a cornerstone of education in the Caribbean, shaping the lives of countless students across the region.
What you are proposing is a history which emphasizes European activities, Renaissance, Reformation, Industrial Revolution, wars between France, Spain, and France and the Dutch. This is not Caribbean history.
In recognition of his lifelong dedication to education, history, and the Caribbean community, Sir Roy was knighted in 1990. His influence extended far beyond the classroom and boardrooms. He was a mentor to a generation of students and a tireless advocate for the region's intellectual growth and unity. Sir Roy was also a beloved figure known for his humility, kindness, and unwavering commitment to service. As a teacher, administrator, and historian, he will be remembered not only for his professional accomplishments, but also for his deep and enduring impact on the lives of those who had the privilege to work with him. He is survived by his family, colleagues, and students who will continue to honor his legacy through their work in education, history, and beyond. The contribution of Professor Sir Roy Augier have left an indelible legacy that will inspire generations to come. Ricardo Brooks for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
The president of Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council says the Trump administration's decision to freeze aid programs, deport migrants, and block refugees will be catastrophic for the country. Leslie Voltaire made the comment in an interview with the Associated Press in Rome on Saturday following a meeting with Pope Francis. According to Voltaire, losing humanitarian assistance will worsen the hunger crisis being faced by Haitians. Voltaire noted that thousands of people are already being repatriated from the Dominican Republic and gangs are terrorizing the populace. He noted that roughly 1.5 million Haitians live in the United States, with more than 150,000 being accepted under a program called the Temporary Protection System. But Voltaire says Haiti will not be able to manage the influx of citizens once Donald Trump decides to expel those onto the program.
Israel says 8 of the remaining 26 hostages due to be released by Hamas during the first phase of the ceasefire deal are dead. Government spokesman David Mensa told reporters that Israel had received a list from the Palestinian armed group overnight, which provided information on the status of the hostages. Mensa says the families have been informed of their relatives' demise. 7 women have already been freed alive in exchange for more than 290 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails since the ceasefire began. On Sunday night, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Netanyahu's office announced Hamas had agreed to release a female civilian, a female soldier, and one other hostage on Thursday.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Indicom probing 22 fatal shootings by the security forces since the start of the year.
58 people murdered across the country up to Saturday.
Attorneys for Ribbies issue warning about rumors circulating on social media following shooting death of one of its employees.
Opposition leader Mark Golding says the PNP has not boycotted the Joint Select Committee examining the bill to make Jamaica a republic.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robianne Williams.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on January 28, 2025 for the Data Protection Symposium at the University of Technology, Jamaica. Join us at the premier Data Protection Conference of the year, where industry leaders, experts, and professionals gather to discuss the latest trends, challenges, and best practices in safeguarding digital information. It will be a day of data privacy, bridging the gap and navigating the next steps in data privacy. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on January 28, 2025 for the Data Protection Symposium, or visit the University of Technology, Jamaica. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the University of Technology, Jamaica.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Bangladesh electing to bat were 30 for 1 after 15 overs against West Indies in the first game of their 3-match Women's T20 International, now on in St. Kitts. The Windies won the 3-match One-Day International Series 2-1 and will look to improve on their 6th place finish in the T20 rankings at the end of the series.
It'd be great to see everyone just get an opportunity to really showcase their skills. We obviously got a lot of new players in the team and a lot of younger players in the team at the moment as well. So it would be great to see people really get to make a name for themselves in a series like this. But at the same time, I think from a team perspective, just continuing to, get into winning habits as a team. And yeah, hopefully it can help us go up the rankings a bit as well if we can be really consistent in 2025.
That's West Indies captain Hayley Matthews. In fact, she's the one who has taken the wicket so far for the West Indies, dismissing Disha Akhtar for 12. Again, Bangladesh electing to bat 30 for 1. Spinner Jomil Warkan says the West Indies started to believe that they were in with a chance to win the second test against Pakistan in Multan. After bowling out the home team in the first innings, the Windies won the game by 120 runs on the third day, their first test victory in Pakistan in 34 years, ensuring the series ended tied 1-1. Warkan ended with match figures of 9 for 70 to go along with his 10 wickets in the first test defeat. The last time West Indies won a test in Pakistan was in Faisalabad in November of 1990, though they have played just 2 home series against the Pakistanis, in that country since 1997 and 2006. Warkan says the team started thinking seriously about victory at the end of the first day.
Just the belief and trusting your game plan and backing ourselves to win the game. Also, the fight back we showed bowling out Pakistan for a cheap total brought back the belief, and we know once we batted well, we're in with a chance to win the game.
And he says consistency was the key ingredient for the bowling attack.
Speed is very important, and we had to work out that the slower you bowl, the more effective you'll be on the wicket. So once I got that information, I use it to my advantage. Just the variation in pace and hitting the same length over and over and being consistent. Consistency is the key to everything in life. Yeah, I just back my game plan. Once the ball's in my zone, I back myself to play the boundary or even get a 4. And at the same time, trust my defense and the same time rotate the strike as well.
Jumel Worken, chairman of the Queen's Grace Jackson Meet Organizing Committee, Olive McNaughton, says it's now becoming too expensive to host track and field events at the National Stadium. The meet has called the National Stadium home for the past 23 years. McNaughton says it's now becoming increasingly difficult to attract sponsors.
Just the costs and expenses that have now in the last 6 weeks that I'm finding out you have to be paying to host a meet in the National Stadium. It's tremendous. So it's probably not going to make much sense going forward to do it in the stadium because it's too much money. To get sponsors from inside the National Stadium is a lot.
McNaughton says they may have to move to another venue come next year, with Jamaica College's Ashenheim Stadium an option.
So the KCC license for every tent we put up, we have to pay for it. The ODPM, we have to pay insurance. We have to do so many things that we never did 5 years. But of course, to protecting the spectators as well as the athletes, but the cost to host the meeting in the National Stadium is actually tremendous.
Olive McNaughton. Finally, in sports at this time, British Prince star Zarnell Hughes says he's confident of a podium place at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan later this year. The 29-year-old Hughes opened his season with a fourth-place finish in the men's 60 metres at the Queen's Grace Jackson Meet at the National Stadium at the weekend. Hughes, the British record holder in both 100 and 200 metres, says he used Saturday's race in Kingston just as a blowout to get his season underway. The Anguillan-born Hughes says he has 2 more 60-metre races this season before going back to his natural habitat, that of running the 100 metres, and then he says the real preparation for an assault on a Tokyo podium place will be underway.
What is for you will be for you, right? I'm working hard to ensure that I am properly prepared for the time, which is September. I know I'm capable of doing it, and as long as the Lord bless me with good health, anything is possible, and I'm pretty sure I'll be on that podium again.
Hughes says while he wants to run fast times, the focus this year will be about winning medals, irrespective of the times, really.
Medal target, no times. If time comes, great. That's a bonus, but the medals is what counts all the time.
That's British sprinter Zarnell Hughes. That's sports. We're going to be back with more at 6:05.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. The time brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:32.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. When choosing your home or business to rent or buy, check if the building is earthquake resistant per local building codes. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. Telephone 876-960-8359.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Plan and practice how to drop to the ground, cover your head and neck with your arms, and if a safer place is nearby that you can get to without exposing yourself to flying debris, crawl to it and hold on to maintain cover. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Telephone 876-754-7472.
Good morning and welcome to the newest addition to the Nationwide News Network family on Hot 102. Good afternoon, I'm Erica Allen. I'm Elizabeth Bennett. In Nationwide News at this hour.
This is Nationwide. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Carol Narcisse. Morning, welcome to This Morning on Hot 102.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Beverly and it's Manley. Good morning and welcome.
For 20 years, Nationwide 90 FM has been your trusted source for breaking news, delivering critical updates when you needed them most.
3:37 in the afternoon, we interrupt to bring you more from the One Don Klansman gang tribe.
another guilty verdict. With fearless, fact-based journalism that unearthed the truth.
Between 2012 and 2018, nearly $5.5 million was taken from the track legend.
And insightful commentary that sparked meaningful conversations and shifted perspectives.
Welcome to the front page. I'm Emily Crooks. I am Naomi Francis. We're pleased to be joined by Roger Clark.
From the stories that shook Jamaica,
we are having an earthquake,
to those that inspired change and left lasting impacts.
In 2014, to be dealing with an issue such as the Mariodine case.
Nationwide 90 FM has been there, diving deep into the issues that matter most to you. As we mark 20 years of dedicated service in 2025, we honor the trust you have placed in us and reaffirm our commitment to serving you, the Jamaican people, rooted in truth, fairness, and integrity. We continue to provide incisive reporting with a foundation of accountability and respect. While we celebrate our journey, we are also focused on the future, fueled by the same passion and purpose that has always driven us. Thank you for supporting Team Revolution for 2 decades. Stay with us. The best is yet to come.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here at Nationwide at 5. I'm Cliff Hughes.
Good afternoon, Cliff. Good afternoon, listeners. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
How you do?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. Well, in our cover story this afternoon, the chairman of the Fiscal Advisory Committee, Keith Duncan, is warning that there's no fiscal space for the government to give away goodies during the upcoming budget. In a column in the Sunday Gleaner yesterday, Mr. Duncan says the country's economic stability was achieved through great sacrifice and prudent management of resources. He says this was done across successive administrations.
Mr. Duncan says this prudent management has allowed the country to increase allocations and spending in the areas of education, health, wages and salaries, capital expenditure, infrastructure projects, investments in the national security capacity within the security forces, social programs, and the safety net for the vulnerable. According to him, public sector wages have moved from $222 billion in the 2021 to 2022 financial year to a projected spend of $424 billion in the current financial year.
Mr. Duncan says for the same period, wages and salaries have increased from 19.58% of gross domestic product, GDP, to 13.15%. He says the wages as a percentage of tax revenues moved from 36% to 46%.
That's 9.58% to 13.15%. Mr. Duncan says these significant increases will likely crowd out other critical areas of spending, and he's warning that there's no space for an increased income tax threshold, and I'm sure a lot of people won't be happy to hear that. He's warning politicians against over-promising during the lead-up to the next general election, due September of this year. Mr. Duncan says the parties should instead seek to outline to voters how they can build on the foundation of the hard-won macroeconomic stability to drive inclusive growth for the Jamaican economy. Keith Duncan joins us now. We're also being joined by Chartered Accountant Dennis Chung. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dennis. Afternoon, Cliff.
Good afternoon. Mr. Duncan, tell us, you are now the chairman of the Fiscal Advisory Council. And in that job, what is your principal mandate?
Okay. So let me first say thank you very much for having me, Nationwide family. And I am not speaking in the capacity of the Fiscal Advisory Committee chairperson. At this point in time, I am speaking as a former chairman of EPOC and as a citizen of Jamaica. The Fiscal Advisory Committee and the Commission is not up and running it as yet, and is set to up and running in January of this year, where they are in the process of recruiting and getting the commission up and running. So there have been no formal meetings of the Fiscal Advisory Committee as yet, and for us to have these discussions and to ventilate them within the Fiscal Advisory Committee in an advisory role to the chairman, to the Fiscal Commissioner, Mr. Courtney Williams. Just to be clear on that one, right? Okay, but the role of the Fiscal Advisory Committee is to provide advice and guidance and to share our perspectives as the civil society grouping that sits as the Fiscal Advisory Committee to the Fiscal Commissioner. And that will then be recorded in the minutes of these Fiscal Advisory Committee meetings, and then there will be dialogue with the Fiscal Commissioner to ensure that we're abiding by our fiscal rules, that our budgets and our expenditures and our revenue assumptions for growth of the economy, exchange rate, interest rate assumptions, all are reasonable, and therefore will meet muster in terms of the ability to achieve budgeted targets.
All right. So just before we move from that, Keith Duncan, essentially this is a tool we're developing as a society, still growing, still learning, much to learn, that your body, you meaning the commission, the Fiscal Commission, is to be the organization that the people of Jamaica, the public of Jamaica, can store some confidence and trust in. So we'll hear from the Prime Minister, we'll hear from the Leader of the Opposition, we'll hear from the other spokesmen and women, but it is the Fiscal Commission's duty, and it will be staffed and resourced to examine the data, the performance, and to say, yes, this is prudential, or no, this is careless and reckless.
That is true. But you have to make it sound so dramatic, Cliff.
I'm a communicator.
Okay, boss.
But let me ask you then, Keith Duncan, the Jamaican.
I wanted to also correct the headline, right? What I said in my column was that we have to be careful. Our political parties, not the government, and I made no reference to the budget of the government. The political parties have to be very careful for making it practical or over-promising within their campaigns, because the budget is in the interim policy paper, the government has already set out parameters of where they're spending where the expenditures are outlined to be, right, at a high level. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, if you hear within the budget, the Prime Minister comes in his portfolio speaks to capital expenditures, that is because Jamaica has budgeted $69 billion for the year 25-26 for capital expenditures. So that's not equal.
We're sort of losing you. We're sort of losing you, Keith Duncan.
Could you repeat that for us? Your line started to act up there.
Okay. So the point I was making that in the interim fiscal policy, which was tabled October 8th, the high-level budgetary expenditures are set for
No, just hold it there for us. Just hold it there for us, Keith. We're going to check your line because it's giving us a little bit of a challenge. Dennis Chung?
Yes, I'm here.
I know you've read the article published yesterday. But do you agree with most of the conclusions Keith Duncan makes?
Yeah, I think Keith is correct. The parties obviously have to be careful. Well, I mean, I don't even think they will be careful. I think they'll go out and promise, because the truth is that they've long done this, and this is why we almost fell off a fiscal cliff in 2013. So you're going to have some promises, but we have to be mindful as a people that when these promises are made, that we're going to properly scrutinize them and ensure that it can be delivered, because Keith is correct in saying that within the context of the fiscal policies that we want to pursue and being fiscally responsible. Not everything that's promised they're going to be able to deliver. Of course, the Fiscal Commission is there, and they have the responsibility, of course, of ensuring that the fiscal rules are followed. Remember, we have certain fiscal rules that we have to obey. So, everyone can promise anything they want, and I'm sure that people will make promises, and some of the promises are very nebulous. I mean, they don't get specific, they're saying, boy, we will do this, we will do that, and, we will make these people's lives better without saying how it's going on. But I think when they say that, it also betrays their understanding of the real issue.
Well, we have one specific promise from the opposition leader. He'll spend $40 billion more to ease the plight of the poorest Jamaicans. But we're up on the break. Let's take that after the break.
Clearing personal, non-commercial shipments at the port? Avoid the wait. Request a contactless clearance through your agent today. It's more efficient. It's secure. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
5:46.
Jamaica, let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one republic. We on the road to republic. Well then, let's propel we nation moving forward in a new direction. True independence, that's the projection. No more dependency, it's the best plan. Yes, we know what's best for us, cause we want we country prosperous. So make we just pull together as the general public while on the road to republic. Jamaica, let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one republic. We on the road to republic.
A message from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
We on the road to republic.
Want to reduce your high electricity bills? Then Peak Energy has the solution for you. From grid-tied to hybrid solar inverters with full lithium-ion battery pack. Installation and maintenance packages available. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hill, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited and its subsidiary Environmental Science and Technology Limited. At Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, we design buildings and infrastructure to withstand earthquakes by incorporating flexible and robust materials. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited and its subsidiary Environmental Science and Technology Limited. Telephone 876-929-0023.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. We have with us Keith Duncan and Dennis Chung. Keith Duncan penned an article in the Sunday Gleaner, Fiscal Risk Loom Large. Growth is the panacea. And before the break, Dennis, you were making the point that the Jamaican people will have to be discerning in listening to the promises that will come from the political platforms. We have a specific promise and a specific amount from the opposition leader. He has said $40 billion more needs to be spent to ease the cost of living crisis, to ease the fact that the poorest Jamaicans are struggling. Am I hearing you correctly in saying that that's a pipe dream?
Well, I mean, it don't even get to a dream because, you tell me you're going to spend $40 billion more. Okay, how are you going to generate that? How are you going to spend it? How is it going to make my life better? Because we have, over the years, we've increased public sector salary over and over again, and we are worse off than we were before. Because let's just say you even have that $40 billion to spend, if you just throw it into a social program, you're going to create inflation. In 10 months' time, everybody's going to be worse off, right? So we have to be very careful about what is being said to us, and we have to understand how it's going to be done. Because the truth is that just throwing money at the problem is not going to solve the problem. We have some structural issues to fix, right? And unless we fix those issues, then someone can throw $100 billion at us. If there's no productivity increase and that $100 billion comes in 12 months' time, I guarantee you, you're going to be in a worse situation than you were 12 months before.
And Keith Duncan, but just before you go back to Keith, Dennis, isn't that part of the crux of the problem we're faced with? That the Holness administration, in giving the big increases to the public sector, did not pin down in measurable ways how to make sure we got value in terms of increased productivity.
Yes. Oh, yes, I agree. I mean, and at the time it was happening, I would say that we need to ensure that the increase comes with greater productivity. Because if that does not happen, right, and we've seen it over and over and over again, I think that the rationalization of the public sector that was done was good to some degree, but what we needed to come with it is the accountability. So therefore, you get a $10 increase, but I need to get $12 of productivity coming behind it, or else I'm going to have a big problem after that. And I think that is what Keith is referring to. And that is something we need to be very careful of, because it's not difficult for us to get back to 2013, if we're not careful. It's not difficult.
Yes. Keith Duncan? Yeah, you're right. So Keith Duncan, you seem to be priming public sector workers to telling them to lower their expectations in the coming cycle of wage negotiations.
Correct. I think we all need to bring the awareness as to where we are with our fiscal affairs and the fiscal outlook that we have as a country, right? And the fiscal envelope that we have that is to share up for all different stakeholders and all competing priorities, right? That is very important that everyone understands as a country where we are. All stakeholders, including the public sector, the private sector, and our wider population, they need to understand. And therefore, I am just sharing that the envelope that we have has become somewhat compressed because of the increases in the wages and salaries over the period, where wages and salaries have increased as a percentage of even tax revenues have increased to 46% and set to increase to 48% next year, moving from $424 billion to $463 billion, right? So the increase in wages and salaries continue to increase as a percentage of tax revenue, and therefore it reduces the flexibility in terms of expenditures in other areas, so it needs to be managed. So in terms of, we have to manage the expectations of the public sector, of all stakeholders who are looking to get allocations in their whatever resources that they're seeking from the government of Jamaica. Because if we look at it and we look at even the capital expenditure, we are set to spend $69 billion in capital expenditure next year, right? We're set to spend $336 billion in programs next year. That's 25-26. But that program, that program expenditure falls from $359 billion. It makes room for the compensation of employees, which goes from $424 to $463 billion. So we have limited space, and with the economy slowing a bit due to burial and all of the challenges we have had with Rafael, etc., and the slowdown and the travel advisories, and the marginal slowdown in tourism, it puts up pressure on revenue. So we have to be aware of where we are as a country, right? And in our fiscal affairs, and to manage our expectations to ensure, as Dennis was pointing out, that we maintain macroeconomic stability. I was making a point when the phone kind of was when we lost connection around the fact that I was not in a budget. The budget is already kind of laid out at a high level in the interim fiscal policy of October 8th, where it sets the high-level parameters. So therefore, within the budget, there are spending and there are revenue items, and therefore, when the government of Jamaica lays out its budget, it will then say how it intends to spend what it has, which is not the same as election goodies, because they have already budgeted, as I just mentioned, $69 billion for capital expenditure and other expenditure items. So therefore, that's not equal to election goodies. Mm-hmm. The point I was making was that there have been there are two main areas that we have to be careful of, and that is one, increasing the income tax threshold, which is very costly, right? And maybe we just don't have the fiscal space for. And also the fact that we should not look to spend more than we earn in relationship to our fiscal rules, right? And curtail the reduction in the debt reduction strategies. We're going to be at 68% at the end of this fiscal year, and we have to get to 60% in 2027-28. Another point I'd like to make is that for 25-26 and 26-27, due to the fact that we have made the adjustments and we are back on track in terms of the debt reduction, that we can actually run deficits, and projected in the fiscal policy paper is a $19 billion deficit in 25-26 and a $22 billion deficit in 26-27, because we have caught up in terms of our debt reduction strategies. So we are already running deficits 0.6% of GDP in 25-26 and 26-27. That is programmed. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So therefore, we don't need to, should we go and spend more than what was already programmed as a deficit inside in alignment with our fiscal rules? I don't think so. I would not recommend that.
Yeah. Keith, I want you to explain. This financial year about to end, we are underperforming in terms of capital expenditure. The last figure I saw, $19 billion, plus another $9 billion a year before. Yes? Tell us, for the uninitiated, does that mean the government has that money sitting down somewhere that it could now utilize?
Well, I think I cannot answer that in 100%, but I know it goes back into the consolidated fund, and I know that there are some elements that they can't carry over. I know that they can carry over contingencies, but I'm not sure if they can carry over the entire number, right? I heard Minister Williams speak to a $11 billion contingency, but I'm not sure exactly what that specific figure is that they could carry over. Dennis might have a thought on it.
Dennis?
No, I don't. They can't carry over capital expenditure. As to the question, I think you have more in mind if the cash is there, and it could be that the cash is there because they have been not doing so badly on the revenue side. So the cash might be there because the cash would be available for spending. It's just that maybe going through all the procurement rules and everything. But once the year runs out, all that money goes back to the ministry and they have to restart again. So, that money is just not going to be there if it runs out.
Yeah.
Going forward.
And Dennis, the situation Keith laid out seems to set up the classic case of politics versus the economy. Because I hear Keith Duncan and he laid it out well. But there is another argument to be made, particularly in this year, with a government facing an election. How do you see the government balancing those interests? The sound fiscal discipline that Keith advocates for and everybody agrees needs to be maintained, and the fact that there's a political reality. The government is facing a buoyant opposition. 8 months to go before it must return to the people for a fresh mandate?
Yeah, well, I mean, based on how I see this government operate, I don't think they're going to be fiscally irresponsible. So an increase in the threshold, I don't see it being programmed. But I see that the expenditure is going to continue on capital projects, things like public transportation, things like getting cheaper energy down. Those things can improve people's lives without just putting money in their hands, right? And I think that is how they're programmed to spend. So it's not just a matter of taking up 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 billion and giving it to people, but saying, let me spend the money. So let's look at the situation, the roads, for example. Maybe all of that money was not projected to be spent, but there are certain expenditures that even if you don't project it, you have to find a way for them to happen because it improves productivity. And that's where I see that the expenditure is going to happen. So if you look at the focus areas, building out infrastructure in terms of the roads, let's just look at, for example, the Montego Bay bypass you know how much productive time is going to be gained from just that alone, right? And that's the sort of expenditure I think that will happen. So even the social housing program, which I think is a very good program, right? Because the expenditure that I'm seeing is geared more towards making people more productive. And I expect, certainly, based on what I have seen, I expect that certainly within 3 to 4 months to the middle of the year, I think that we're going to start feeling the effects of the reduction in crime. And that is going to be the pivotal moment. So we've seen the reductions happening statistically, but I think you'll start feeling it soon if we continue on that trend. I think we'll start feeling the better roads that we're driving on, right? The public transport, I think that we could go a little quicker with that, right? And once we start feeling those things, then we're not even going to have to increase the threshold or increase revenues, because there's a lot of efficiency gains that can come from all of that by increasing productivity within the revenue that we have. And I think that's where we need to focus. And I think that's the argument that Keith is making also. It's a very sound argument.
We have to go bring you back and Keith, because we're past the news time. Okay. And Keith Duncan, I haven't been able to reach yet the point you make about fixing the public sector wage bill as a percentage of GDP that we need to return to some
index to inflation or index to some level of KPIs around productivity.
Exactly. And the looming wage negotiations with the public sector unions, how that may play. Yes, because it goes back to the politics of the moment that we're in. Yes, we have to go bring it back, the two of you, to complete this discussion, gentlemen. But thanks, Keith Duncan. You did the country some public service yesterday. Yeah, and we need more voices like this.
Thank you very much, Cliff.
Good.
You know, Cliff, I hear the Labourites, they've coined a new term. They said this is the stay with it government. The People's National Party has never escaped the mantra of run with it. The Labourites are saying stay with it. Let's see. Let's see if it resonates.
Yes. That's a cover story. The headlines are next.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
3 minutes after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Nora Gay Banton. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, has investigated 22 fatalities involving the security forces since the start of 2025. This follows the latest police fatal shooting on Mountain View Avenue in St. Andrew on Monday. The dead man has been identified as 55-year-old Eric Shakespeare. Shakespeare was shot and killed in an alleged confrontation with the police. Commissioner of INDECOM, Hugh Faulkner, says the Commission's investigative team visited the crime scene.
The police report carrying out a targeted operation on Mountain View Avenue, wherein they breached a bedroom door and allegedly confronted a man with a firearm pointed at the police. A law enforcement officer reportedly discharged his firearm. Mr. Shakespeare sustained what appeared to be gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead at the Kingston Public Hospital, where he was taken. The police report that a firearm and ammunition were recovered at the scene. For 2025, Indicom has investigated 22 fatalities involving the security forces.
But residents are disputing the police's account of the incident. Sections of Mountain View Avenue were blocked by angry residents who set fire to debris scattered across the roadway. The police advised motorists to expect delays and to use other routes. Mr. Faulkner is encouraging the residents to participate in the investigative process by providing any information relating to the incident.
In addition to the report of the police, Indicom invites members of the public who witnessed the incident or any part of the incident to provide any video recording, photos, or information related to the operation that they may possess. The Commission may be contacted by WhatsApp at 876-553-0000 or contact the Office of the Commission at 876-968-1932.
Hugh Faulkner, Commissioner of Indicom. 58 people have been killed across the island between January 1 and 25. The figure is one murder down from the 59 recorded in the corresponding period last year. It represents a near 2% decline. That's according to the latest crime statistics from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF. St. Andrew South now leads the country with the most murders in any police division, 13. The division is followed by St. Catherine South with 10 murders. 8 divisions recorded an increase in murders since the start of the year. They are St. Mary, Clarendon, Kingston East, Kingston West, St. Andrew Central, St. Andrew South, St. Andrew North, and St. Catherine South. Portland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Kingston Central, and Trelawney have had no murders since the start of the year. In the meantime, shootings have declined by 30% compared to the corresponding period last year. Other major crimes, such as robberies, rapes, and break-ins, also continue to decline. Commanding Officer for Westmoreland's Superintendent Othniel Dobson says the continued use of a Zone of Special Operations, ZOSO, in the division has significantly contributed to a reduction in murders. Superintendent Dobson was speaking with Prime Minister Andrew Holness during a recent tour of the parish.
3 years ago, the Savamar police area recorded 38 murders. Then it came down to 28. Last year, 13, with only 3 occurring within the zone of special operation, only 2 by gun. 1 was a stabbing incident. We love the tool, it's working well. Without the tool, it would have been a more dangerous place for us. We continue to work along with our military counterparts, and we expect an even much better year this year within the Savamar zones of special operations.
A zone of special operations was declared in Savannah-Lamar in 2022. The security measure was declared in the parish after the police noted a spike in murders the previous year due to gang violence. According to the JCF's crime report on January 25, Westmoreland has recorded 1 murder since the start of the year. Superintendent Dobson says the reduction in crime can also be attributed to increased allocation of training and resources.
We have had a 19% reduction in overall crimes last year. And overall, we are seeing much better figures. We are seeing a more motivated police force that is in receipt of resources. We have had at least 120 odd persons trained at level 2 at specialized operation, which has given us that extra kick as it relates to our fight on crime. Additionally, we have gotten vehicles that will continue to assist us in policing the area.
Superintendent Othniel Dobson, commanding officer for the Westmoreland Division. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Sports is next.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10 or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825 to 8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
New World Home Improvement and Detail Cleaning offers high-quality detail cleaning and home improvement services. They cater to residential and commercial properties. They clean from the ceiling to the floor. They clean sofas, mattresses, carpets, and chairs. They deep clean and restore all floors. They repair and restore roofing. They do tiling, general paintings, drywall works, and other carpentry services to include property renovation. Call them 876-384-9313. Follow them at New World Detail Cleaning and Home Improvement.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Bangladesh electing to bat were 117 for 2 after 17 overs against West Indies in the first game of their 3-match Women's T20 International, now on over at the Arnoldsville ground in St. Kitts. It's 124 for 2 after 17 overs and 3 balls. Sharmin Akhtar is unbeaten on 37, and with her Nijar Sultana Jyoti, who is unbeaten on 45. So they are now they've now stood in a partnership approaching 100 for the third wicket. They came together at 43 for 2, and they are now 124 for 2 with 2 overs and 3 balls remaining in their innings. And the West Indies won the 3-match one-day international series 2-1, and will look to improve on their 6th place in the T20 international ranking at the end of the series.
It'd be great to see everyone just get an opportunity to really showcase their skills. We obviously got a lot of new players in the team and a lot of younger players in the team at the moment as well. So it would be great to see people really get to make a name for themselves in a series like this. But at the same time, I think from a team perspective, just continuing to, get into winning habits as a team. And yeah, hopefully it can help us go up the rankings a bit as well if we can be really consistent in 2025.
That's Hayley Matthews, captain of the West Indies team. The score is now 125 for 2, 2 overs and 2 balls remaining. 125 for 3 now. And Akhtar has been dismissed by Sherry Fraser for 37. So Bangladesh now 125 for 3 with 2 overs and 1 ball remaining in their innings. Nijar Sultana Jyoti is still there on 46. So Matthews, Fletcher and Fraser, the wicket takers for the West Indies so far. Spinner Jomel Warkan says the West Indies started to believe that they were in with a chance to win the second test against Pakistan in Multan. After bowling out the home team in the first innings, the West Indies won the game by 120 runs on the third day, their first test victory in Pakistan in 34 years, ensuring the series ended tied 1-1. Warkan ended with match figures of 9 for 70 to go along with his 10 wickets in the first test defeat. The last time the West Indies won a test in Pakistan was in Faisalabad in November 1990, though they have played just 2 series in the country since 1997 and 2006. Warkan says the team started thinking seriously about winning the game at the end of the first day.
Just the belief and trusting the game plan and backing ourselves to win the game. Also, the fight back we showed bowling out Pakistan for a cheap total brought back the belief, and we know once we batted well, we're in with a chance to win the game.
And Warkan says consistency was the key ingredient in the bowling attack.
Speed is very important. We had to work out that the slower you bowl, the more effective you'll be on the wicket. So once I got that information, I use it to my advantage. Just the variation in pace and hitting the same length over and over and being consistent. Consistent is the key to everything in life. Yeah, I just back my game plan. Once the ball's in my zone, I back myself to play the boundary or even get a 4. And at the same time, trust my defense and the same time, rotate the strike as well. That's
Jomel Warkan. 18 overs have now been bowled, and the Bangladesh team, they're elected to bat. They are now 125 for 3, and this in the first of 3 T20 internationals against the West Indies. Shona Akhtar is now at the wicket. She's yet to score. There are 3 Akhtars in the Bangladesh 11. Nijar Sultana Jyoti is still there on 45. 125 for 3, 2 more overs to go for Bangladesh. Chairman of the organizing committee of the Queen's Grace Jackson meet, Olive McNaughton, says it's now becoming too expensive to host track and field events at the National Stadium. The meet has called the National Stadium home for the past 23 years. McNaughton says it's now becoming increasingly difficult to even attract sponsors.
Just the cost and expenses that have now in the last 6 weeks that I'm finding out you have to be paying to host a meet in the National Stadium. It's tremendous. So it's probably not going to make much sense going forward to do it in the stadium because it's too much money. To get sponsors from meets inside the National Stadium is a lot.
McNaughton says they may have to move to another venue come next year, with Jamaica College's Ashenheim Stadium an option.
So the KCC license for every 10 we put up, we have to pay for it. The ODPM, we have to pay insurance. We have to do so many things that we never did 5 years. But of course, you're protecting the spectators as well as the athletes. But the cost to host the meeting in the National Stadium is actually tremendous.
That's Olive McNaughton. An update from St. Kitts Basseterre at Warner Park. Bangladesh women are now 128 for 3 after 18 overs and 3 balls in that T20 opener against the West Indies. British Prince star Zarnell Hughes says he's confident of a podium place at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan later this year. The 29-year-old Hughes opened his season with a 4th place finish in the men's 60 metres at the Queen's Grace Jackson meet at the National Stadium at the weekend. Hughes, the British record holder in both the 100 and 200 metres, says he used Saturday's race in Kingston just as a blowout to get his season underway. The Anguillan-born Hughes says he has just 2 more 60-metre races this season before going back to his natural habitat of running 100-meter races, and then he says the real preparation for an assault on a podium place in Tokyo will be on the way.
What is for you will be for you, right? I'm working hard to ensure that I am properly prepared for the time, which is September. I know I'm capable of doing it, and as long as the Lord bless me with good health, anything is possible, and I'm pretty sure I'll be on that podium again.
Hughes says he's still interested in running fast times, but this year the focus will be on winning medals.
Medal target, no times. If time comes, great. That's a bonus, but the medals is what counts all the time.
Zarnell Hughes. Holders the Ivory Coast have drawn Cameroon in the group stage of the 2025 African Cup of Nations to be held in Morocco. At a glittering ceremony in the Moroccan capital Rabat, the Elephants were drawn in Group F, where they'll face Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's Gabon and Mozambique. Africa's biggest sporting event will begin on December 21 and run right the way through to January 18 of 2026. The opening game will pit the host country Morocco against Cameroon's Nigeria, who lost to the Côte d'Ivoire in the AFCON 2023 final, will play in Group C alongside Tunisia. In the same group, Uganda and Tanzania, 2 of the co-hosts of the 2027 African Cup of Nations, have been pitted against each other. In other intriguing regional contests, 3 Southern African teams will feature in Group B. South Africa, Angola and Zimbabwe have all been drawn together, along with Mohamed Salah's Egypt. Sudan, who qualified for the AFCON in 2025 despite the country being engulfed in a civil war, will face Algeria in Group E. Moroccan legend Mustafa Hadji was among the celebrated footballing figures on hand to assist with the draw. The 24 teams have been split into 6 groups. The winners and runners-up in each group, plus the best 4th, 3rd and 4th place teams, will reach the knockout phase. Molynes United and Humberline will lock horns in round 20 of the Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League at Jewsland. Humberline, who sit at the foot of the table, will move up 3 places to 11th with a win, while a victory for Molynes will see them moving up a place to 9th, and Alex Thomas will start his tenure as the new Humberline coach. President of the Jamaica Olympic Association, Chris Samuda, is backing Jamaica's national senior netball team to win gold at the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. The Sunshine Girls' highest finish came at the most recent Commonwealth Games, Birmingham 2022, where they reached their first final before losing out on gold to Australia 51-55. In the Commonwealth Games prior to that, at the Gold Coast event in 2018 and also in 2014 in Glasgow, Jamaica finished the 3rd, taking home the bronze. They also won bronze at the 2002 Games in Manchester, England. Samuda says after beating England 2-1 in a 6-match home and away series and sweeping South Africa 3-0 at home, he's convinced that Jamaica is on the right trajectory to win gold at a global meet.
with back-to-back series victories over England and South Africa, and the sun shining bright. I'm looking beyond the horizon in Glasgow at the Commonwealth Games in 2026. Yes, that's the vision of the Jamaica Olympic Association. The girls in Birmingham narrowly missed wearing the crown, but in Glasgow, we are aiming for bullseye. And what I saw recently makes me confident that the girls are not only on target, but they are going to leave an indelible mark in Scotland, known as a home of golf, but will become, in addition, the yard of netball with their footprints.
Chris Samuda, president of the Jamaica Olympic Association. That's sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:20.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore, for all your prescription needs, gifts, personal care, household and stationery items. The temperature by Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore is
28 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's 27 in the western city, Montego Bay.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere, spend while supporting the economy. Look for the Multi-link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multi-link?
Enough power tool, big to small. Jack on my figure, dig the wall.
Our Total Tools.
Weed back a figure, trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option. Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Good morning and welcome to the newest addition to the Nationwide News Network family on Hot 102.
Good afternoon, I'm Erica Allen.
I'm Elizabeth Bennett.
In Nationwide News at this hour.
This is Nationwide. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Carol Narcisse.
Morning, welcome to This Morning on Hot 102.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Beverly Anderson Manley. Good morning and welcome.
For 20 years, Nationwide 90 FM has been your trusted source for breaking news, delivering critical updates when you needed them most.
3:37 in the afternoon, we interrupt to bring you more from the One Don Klansman gang trial. Another guilty verdict.
With fearless, fact-based journalism that unearthed the truth.
Between 2012 and 2018, nearly $5.5 million was taken from the track legend.
And insightful commentary that sparked meaningful conversations and shifted perspectives.
Welcome to the front page. I'm Emily Crooks. I am Naomi Francis. We're pleased to be joined by Roger Clark.
From the stories that shook Jamaica,
we're having an earthquake,
to those that inspired change and left lasting impacts.
In 2014, to be dealing with an issue such as the Mario Dean case.
Nationwide 90 FM has been there, diving deep into the issues that matter most to you. As we mark 20 years of dedicated service in 2025, we honor the trust you have placed in us and reaffirm our commitment to serving you, the Jamaican people, rooted in truth, fairness, and integrity. We continue to provide incisive reporting with a foundation of accountability and respect. While we celebrate our journey, we are also focused on the future, fueled by the same passion and purpose that has always driven us. Thank you for supporting Team Revolution for 2 decades. Stay with us. The best is yet to come.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Roby Ann Williams. A special good evening to our friends on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. We invite you to weigh in live in the comments section on today's Public Opinion. It's an election year. Indeed. And we've seen the conversations as it relates to parliamentarians who are on the older side of things. And we thought we would put it to you in Public Opinion. We're asking you this evening, should persons over 75 serve in the Jamaican Parliament? That's the question for today's Public Opinion. Should persons over 75 serve in the Jamaican Parliament? And we'll go right to the comments on Facebook, where Fabian Smith is saying, not really, but there should be a retirement age for parliamentarians. Michelle Bernard is saying 70 years old by reasoning of health and strength. Audrey Allen is saying no. That's 10 years above the retirement age. Jamaica has a lot of younger people who need to be given an opportunity. Robert Ranger is also saying no, and he's also saying that retirement for politicians should be 70. Marvin Marvelous also saying no. The same way them remind us every year that our retirement age is 65, they should leave at 65 too. All right. Michael Henry saying no. Retirement years should be 65, 70 if elected before your 65th birthday. Wow. Specific. Claudette Jackson Records is saying no, they can go to 75 years and retire after. Yeah. Elorita Mitchell, if their brains are functioning at its optimum, if they are performing in their constituency, by all means, their constituents should make the decision. She's saying that some young wannabe MPs going around now yapping. They neither have substance nor standards. Wow. Godson Miller saying yes. The first yes we have since the start of the show. Godson Miller saying yes. Retirement, I think maybe he's being sarcastic, but yes. He's saying that retirement should be 90. According to Godson Miller, retirement for Jamaican parliamentarians should be 90. All right. Annette Wheeler is saying she believes retirement should be at the same age for everyone. Lily Roses, as long as them can carry out them work fully and don't need wheelchair. Look in other countries' parliament. If them feeble and can't function well and drink too much rum, send them home. Okay. Wesley Cunningham is saying nope. Persons over 75 should not serve in Jamaican Parliament. Reason being, they don't own us, that they think they should continue. That's according to Wesley Cunningham. For Sean Major Campbell, he's saying there are 75 years old persons who are much sharper than some 65 years old people. I choose capacity above age. Would you look at that? Christopher Isaac saying certainly once they were elected at the constituency level. Now, should they be elected is the important question. Oh, okay. See what you did there. Natalie Winter says, yes, why not? Age is just a number. If you're not sick or ailing, go for it. You will have my vote. Yeah. And Patricia is saying that it shouldn't be based on your age. It's your ability and competence. All right. Philip Jackson saying it should not be based on your age. Again, it should be all about one's ability and competence. As long as dementia is not knocking at your door, is soon to be on your street. Marcia Lewis says, all 100 too. Shake my head. I believe that one is sarcastic for sure. Yeah. All right. So let me go to the comments on our Instagram, where Chris Duncan is saying the U.S. president is what? 73. The former president, 82. I don't think it's a big deal. Once the person was elected, serving the people as they should, I have no problem. Facey Michael is saying, if the constituency wants them, so let it be. And if they are able to do the job. Yeah. Let me see if I can get in a few more. Fabless is saying that's not a problem. From they're active and strong and delivering, it's not a concern for me. HM, I think they can serve as consultants. They have a wealth of knowledge, experience, and wisdom that can aid the younger generation to make wise decisions and policies. Mish is saying no, 65 years of age aligned to the Retirement or Pension Act. Godfrey also saying no. O'Shane saying that he believes they should serve as advisors rather than being active in certain roles. Let me see if I can get to the comments on YouTube. The question we're asking: should persons over 75 serve in the Jamaican Parliament? Let's see the responses. All right, so Barbara Ellington is saying 75 is good retirement age. Yeah. Kevin saying politicians should go on retirement the same age as the public sector workers, but based on how taxpayer money sweet, some would even try to serve whilst in the wheelchair. Wow. Carl Welsh is saying 65 years for everyone. Ronald Grant, they serve on the bench, so why not in Parliament? And Papa is saying once they're performing, keep them. A lot of older folks in Jamaica doing a better job than younger folks. Yeah. Sharon Bless, it's not about what's happening around the world we're asking about here. Jamaica, we know what's happening around the world we're asking about here. Let me see if I can get in a few more of these comments. Juliet Sanchez, I know this lady that is 89 years old and still running 26.2 miles races. Well, okay. Let me see if I can get in some more. Wise Emersary is asking, how age reach Yasso? Well, the conversation is, it's an election year, and we're wondering if some of the parliamentarians who will be running, or if it is that they will be running, let us see. And it's also a conversation that has been happening for a while now. Iron Lady says, give the young people them a chance. Give Robian a chance. Would you look at that? Thank you so very much, Iron Lady. You know what I'm saying thanks for. SC says, no, we need term limits. Sharon Forbes says 75 must go home to take care of their grandchildren. Beckford Barrett also saying, no, 65 is good enough for everyone. Yeah. Let me see if I can get some more questions. Some more responses, rather. Juliet Sanchez says, too many young people lazy. Carlene Smith is saying politicians can go up to 90 years because most of them serve their energies, all their tenure, more rest, better stamina. Okay. All right. Let's see. Bev Thompson is saying, if the people want them and they are functional, then yes. Presently, some younger aspiring leaders appear to be mad. All right. Juliet Sanchez, we would have better productivity rate if older individuals were allowed to work. And yeah, productivity has been the talk. Yeah. Melvin Brown says, so how politicians can stay so long, but teacher have to have cutoff time? All right, let me see if I can get this one. Student for Life says, Robert Mugabe served his country at age 93. Nelson Mandela served up to 81. Case in point, yes, they can serve beyond 75. Strong Lake says persons over 75 should not seek re-election unless they can demonstrate that they are still physically and cognitively fit. Experience is valuable. Yeah. Let me see if I can get in a few more. Getting the wrap-up signal. Gertrude Brown says, agree, 70 and out. Yeah? All right. Thank you guys so much for participating in Public Opinion. I was going to say something. Yes, the business report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, industrial automation and control solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:34.
Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today.
The temperature by IQ Optical is
28 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 27 out west in Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. The Companies Office of Jamaica, COJ, is reporting that more than 23,000 new business entities were registered last year. That's a 9% increase when compared to 2023. Now, in a statement on Monday, the COJ says this underscores the confidence felt by entrepreneurs in doing business in Jamaica. Since 2019, the agency says it has made substantial progress in delivering more convenient services to facilitate business registration. A key milestone in the initiative includes the launch of its electronic business registration platform, which has enabled more than 27,000 entities to register seamlessly. Now, last year, the COJ announced that it will be adding business renewal and business closure services to its online offerings. To register business online, persons may visit www.orcjamaica.com. Further afield, Coca-Cola has recalled its drinks in some countries across Europe because they contain higher levels of a chemical called chlorate. The firm said in a statement that the recall was focused on Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. It added that just 5 product lines had been shipped to Britain and had already been sold. Affected products include Coke, Fanta, Sprite, Tropico, and Minute Maid brands, according to Belgium branch of Coca-Cola's international bottling and distribution operation. Chlorate can be produced when chlorine-based disinfectants are used in water treatment and food processing. The company did not specify which products have been affected in the UK, but said the 5 product lines were shipped to the UK towards the end of last year. And finally, in the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 158 Jamaican dollars and 6 cents to buy $1 US, 197 Jamaican dollars and 13 cents to buy $1 British pound, and 120 Jamaican dollars and 53 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Robianne Williams. Good evening.
Outperform, outlast. We top performance. Jackama. Reliable, full stop, not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electricians. Fancy select tools, 3 parts and 3 repairs. 3 parts, 3 repairs. 2 to 3 years. Hilton, available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-61124. Delta Supply, we service what we sell.
Registration is now open for Sagicor Sigma Run 2025. Register now and get ready to run, walk, and wheel for a cause. Our beneficiaries are Sir John Golding Rehabilitation Center, Father Holland and Friends Foundation, and the Kingston Public Hospital. Be a part of Sagicor Sigma Run 2025. Make sure you're there on February 16 for the Caribbean's biggest road race. Visit SagicorSigmaRun.com and register now. Sponsored by Walden, Pan Jam, National Baking Company, Reggae Marathon, Catherine's Peak, Malay Media, and Whistling Frog.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Retrofit and reinforce your house. If you're in a high-risk area, take steps to reinforce your house. Bolt your house to the foundation and reinforce support beams as needed. Secure furniture such as bookshelves and cabinets to the walls. This will decrease the risk of furniture moving or falling and injuring someone. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Coast to Coast Concrete. Telephone 876-754-7472.
Since 1995, we've been your go-to source for everything related to billiards, amusement machines, and electronics. With locations at 1A Lindsay Terrace, Kingston 10, and the Village Plaza, Big Bridge, Savannah Lamar, we offer top-quality pool table parts and accessories, cutting-edge gaming machines, and more. We also specialize in assembly, sales, and service of amusement machines. We provide unmatched customer service, expert solutions, and products tailored to your needs. Who are we? We are Eclipse Enterprise. Telephone 876-960-3891.
Are you equipped to protect your organization from financial crime? The University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, in partnership with the Anti-Money Laundering and Financial Crimes Institute, is offering internationally recognized certifications in anti-money laundering, improved compliance with certifications in FCPA, fraud risk management, countering the financing of terrorism, and more. Visit www.ucc.edu.jm or call 876-906-3214 for more information.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jack on my figure, dig the wall. Upper Total Tools. Lead back a figure, trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand. Total Tools. We rent them, sell them, and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston. And Lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Good morning and welcome to the newest addition to the Nationwide News Network family on Hot 102. Good afternoon, I'm Erica Allen. I'm Elizabeth Bennett. In Nationwide News at this hour.
This is Nationwide. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Carol Narcisse.
Morning, welcome to This Morning on Hot 102.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Beverly Anderson Manley. Good morning and welcome.
For 20 years, Nationwide 90 FM has been your trusted source for breaking news, delivering critical updates when you needed them most.
3:37 in the afternoon, we interrupt to bring you more from the One Don Klansman gang trial. Another guilty verdict.
With fearless, fact-based journalism that unearthed the truth.
Between 2012 and 2018, nearly $5.5 million was taken from the track legend.
And insightful commentary that sparked meaningful conversations and shifted perspectives.
Welcome to the front page. I'm Emily Crooks. I am Naomi Francis. We're pleased to be joined by Roger Clark.
From the stories that shook Jamaica,
we're having an earthquake,
to those that inspired change and left lasting impacts.
In 2014, to be dealing with an issue such as the Mario Dean case.
Nationwide 90 FM has been there, diving deep into the issues that matter most to you. As we mark 20 years of dedicated service in 2025, we honor the trust you have placed in us and reaffirm our commitment to serving you, the Jamaican people, rooted in truth, fairness, and integrity. We continue to provide incisive reporting with a foundation of accountability and respect. While we celebrate our journey, we are also focused on the future, fueled by the same passion and purpose that has always driven us. Thank you for supporting Team Revolution for 2 decades. Stay with us. The best is yet to come. Out of order.
Good evening, listeners. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for staying with us here on
Sims, Jason, I see your comment. Yeah? I see your comment.
No, man.
Damn, out of order.
Listeners, it's time for the nation's business. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
I'm Cliff Hughes.
And we're going to the Western Parish of St. James. It's recorded 4 murders up to January 25 this year. This represents a 66% decline when compared to the 12 murders recorded for the same period last year. Head of the St. James Division, Superintendent Aaron Samuels, says it's a good start on the road to keeping homicides below the 100 mark for 2025.
Over the years, St. James has been dubbed the most murderous police division. Superintendent Samuel says the strategic imposition of zones of special operations have contributed to a decline in major crimes in the parish.
Last year, the zones of special operation in Norwood, we had no murders in Norwood for the period. In Mount Salem, we had a little issue which was dealt with, and we are seeing low figures within that space. And based on the trajectory this year, we are projecting that we'll have a good year as well in both zones.
Superintendent Aaron Samuels, the commanding officer for the St. James Police Division. He joins us now. Good evening, Superintendent.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
All right. Let me start with the gang situation in St. James, because for quite some time that was a large part, significant part of the challenge you were facing in the parish. Where are you now in terms of eradicating the gangs?
Well, we have done some significant work over the years in terms of arresting quite a few of the gangsters, displacing them. Some unfortunately challenged us, and we defended ourselves well in those situations. But what we have, I believe, done is stem the issue of persons getting the youngsters joining the gangs. We have done quite a bit of work with our safe school system, and recognizing that the gangs don't pay. We are working hard to ensure that the youngsters recognize that, it's easier to get an education, look at a job. We are focused on ensuring that the main income earner within the parish, which is the tourism sector, that we bring the murders down so that we can get that as well growing, so that persons can receive more gainful employment from the sector as well. So there are quite a few things that we're doing that are eating away at the whole issue of gangs within not just St. James, but for the whole Irrawan, as we are focused right now on the entire Irrawan, bringing things under control as a team.
How do you effectively make that argument to the youngsters, considering, we've heard the reports of the prevalence of lottery scamming in the Western region?
Right, lottery scamming it's there, but based on the experience that they are seeing in terms of persons who have been engaged in lottery scamming, and it's twinned to the gangster lifestyle. They're realizing that the outcome is not a positive one for a lot of these persons, whilst it is as well lucrative, and they're seeing where they can earn. But we want to ensure that they recognize that there are consequences for actions. The Lottery Scam Task Force that falls on the CTOC, apart from the work done by the division, they have been doing quite a bit of work in terms of going after the persons involved in lottery scamming, and they have made a lot of arrests, and a lot of persons have been, extradited to face the crimes overseas, face the law for the crimes they have committed in other jurisdictions.
So is it that you have broken the back of that network of criminals?
I wouldn't want to say we have broken the back, but we have made significant strides in reducing the prevalence of it.
So you don't see as much of the proceeds as you once did that were able to fuel the acquisitions of arms, ammunition, motor vehicles, bribing people?
I think it's still around, but not to a great extent as before. As I said, we displaced a lot of the gangsters and a lot of lottery scammers. Unfortunately, they move to other parishes, and you'll see upticks all over. So for Area 1, what we have done, we are focusing on dealing with crime on an area level. So I'm not just focusing on St. James. We're looking how it impacts Trelawney, Hanover, Westmoreland. So all the commanders, including led by ACP Benford Miller, we have come together to focus on ridding crime within the area. So we know that when we push in St. James, they'll push to Westmoreland or they'll push to Hanover or push to Trelawney. So each divisional commander will continue to inform each other and push so that we can get them out of Area 1. So unfortunately, we might see an uptick in other spaces, but we are very confident that the work that we're doing will see some decline in incidents of both lottery scamming and murders within the area.
Superintendent, the murder tally in St. James climbed to 100 and then above 100. It hit 100 something like 15, 20 years ago, I was reading. And you set a target of bringing below 100 in 2025. You think the current strategies and the resources that you have, that's feasible?
I believe that we're able to do it. We would not, as a division, come up with this as our target without believing that the men and women on the ground are motivated and ready to take that on. Albeit we are supported by our area team, we are supported by specialized operations. Our greatest partner in this is the JDF 2GR led by Colonel Lysite. We are getting some good support, and the area what we are looking at is the support from the area level. We are looking not just to have that kind of a reduction in St. James, but in the entire area. So we are confident with that sort of approach, and we'll be able to meet the target. What we find is that we would get some murders that really would belong to Westmoreland or belong to Hanover, or belong to Trelawney. But when we push as an area right across, we'll be able to ensure that we have that sort of a major reduction right across Area 1. If you look at the figures, you will see it's not just St. James. Westmoreland has only recorded 1 murder since the start of the year. Hanover has recorded 2, and St. James 4. So we are not looking at individual parishes, but we are looking at bringing the fight to the criminals across Area 1, because we are so intertwined in terms of crime within the area, in terms of the gangs, the connections, how the fluidity of movement, that we are ensuring that we cut down their ability to move and their ability to commit crimes. So there's a lot being done that will allow not just St. James, but the entire area to achieve its target.
Do you think you'll need the emergency or enhanced powers of the ZOZO or the state of emergency to assist with this target, or you think the ordinary policing strategies will get you there?
Or the zones of special operation is a staple that is being used both in Westmoreland and St. James, and we are both seeing major reductions within those spaces. In Norwood last year, we had no murders, and in Mount Salem we had 1 murder. So we believe, compared, if you look at the historic data, there were multiple murders prior to the launch of the zone of special operation. But I believe the work that we are doing with the community itself is what makes a difference. But the zone of special operation gives us that ability in the whole period, especially to work on that relationship, work on how we do policing itself in this space, so that we can have some long-term changes to both the physical and social structure within these communities.
So let me ask you, Superintendent Samuels, is St. James still the epicenter of crimes in Western Jamaica?
Well, if you look at the figures, we're at 4 murders, Hanover at 2, and Westmoreland at 1. Naturally, based on the commercial activities within the space, the population density, as any large city, you will find that incidents will happen. In terms of Western Jamaica, we would be the bigger power within that space, so we'll have more incidents happening in St. James. However, one title that I am willing to get rid of is the title of being the most murderous parish or most murderous division in the country. That is something that I don't aspire to be. I used to run and I like to win, but I don't want to win that one.
And you know, it is the most influential parish in Western Jamaica, without a doubt. Yes, in terms of commerce, politics, and somehow St. James has developed over the years a reputation for being the incubator for any new criminal schemes that come into the island of Jamaica. And it was also famous for the 19 inner city communities ringing Montego Bay. Do you still have problems with those inner city communities, or have we largely reduced the fertile ground space for crime and criminality?
All right. I won't make pronouncements to say that we have rid the space of anything. You know, I'm a realist. There is criminal activity that will take place. However, what we are ensuring is that we don't create that environment for it to grow. What we want to do is to ensure that we have that constant decline, that the new normal for St. James will not be the high murder rates that we're used to. And it's not just, as I said, we're not focused on just St. James in the West. We're focused on the area, because based on what transpires, you will have crimes that start in St. James that the outcome happens in another parish. So our intelligence is of such that we are ensuring that we don't have that incubating process where we have crimes coming from one division happening in the next. So we are trying our best to ensure that we don't go back to those days where you have, even though we have these communities, that the crimes that come from them impacts the country in that negative way.
What's the support like that you get from the residents of these communities that Cliff mentioned just now? Are they cooperative generally?
For the most, we have pushed our community policing efforts. We have a very robust team, and they are very engaging with the community. Coming from community development, community police, there's a lot that I'm seeing that we're doing that is encouraging the members of the public to work with us. I believe persons are also encouraged by the professionalism of the police officers and also the way how we are engaging them on a regular basis. We're out there in the streets. We launched last year our Beat Officer Patrol Division. So in the township, you're seeing the police officers. We have our coordinated roadblocks that's taking place where you see the police officers on the street. And what makes a difference is the quality of the interaction that we have within the spaces with everybody. So I believe that if we, as the transformation process takes place, if persons can see, feel, hear, and experience the transformation, that we'll get more support from the residents.
So you no longer have the challenge of some of the youngsters thinking, can't trust the Babylon.
You won't escape that. But, you know, if we win persons over one person at a time, you will forever have the whole notion of police and thief. So it's not something that we'll escape. But what we try to do is to ensure that from as early as possible, we engage them within the schools. We are setting up a lot more police youth clubs in schools. We have programs such as the Joan Pilot training program within the schools that are having police officers interact with students, them seeing them in a different light, based on our church service or community engagements. We recently started our own divisional band, and we are going to be taking that to the streets at some of our community meetings, and just finding creative ways to have that engagement process being done with the community members.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Aaron Samuels. He is the commanding officer for the St. James Police Division, one of the toughest police divisions in the island. They are now reporting that between January 1 and 25 this year, there's been a 66% drop in murders compared to the same 4-week period last year. And wouldn't we love if they can keep it at that percentage decline, 66%, yes? 4 murders so far up to January 25, as against 12 in the same period last year.
The target for 2025, below 100.
Yeah, and we're just asking for all the members of the public to come on board. It only serves everyone best if we can keep the numbers down. It will drive economic opportunities. It will bring that safety and security feeling that everybody wants. And most of all, at the end of the day, we won't be considered the most murderous division or parish. We want to get rid of that title. We want it to be the best parish, the safest parish. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah. Okay. All the best. Keep up the good work, Superintendent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. This is Nationwide at 5.
Access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy. Look for the multi-link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my multi-link?
Start your fitness journey today and make 2025 your healthiest yet with Express Fitness. State-of-the-art equipment, expert trainers, and encouraging community are here to support you every step of the way. Join now and take the first step towards a stronger, happier you. Express Fitness, starting at only $9,500 per month with 11 locations island-wide. Your gym for all your needs. Visit www.expressfitnessja.com to sign up today.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jack on my figure, dig the wall.
Our Total Tools.
Beat back a figure, trim the lawn. We have everything your job demand.
Total Tools. We rent them, sell them, and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, or Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slipe Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Do you remember this?
We're having an earthquake. Oh, God.
Don't worry, we never forget it. But in all seriousness, earthquakes are deemed the most dangerous natural disaster. We can never predict when one will hit our lovely Jamaica. But we can raise awareness and help you to prepare for one with our radio segment known as Seismic Dialogue. Tune in to the Seismic Dialogue every Monday at 7 p.m. during Nationwide at 5. We'll have discussions, listener interactions, and more. That's the Seismic Dialogue. Mondays at 7 p.m. during Nationwide at 5. Preparedness is key. Secure what matters, have a plan, and remain calm when the ground shakes. Brought to you by Digital Commodities, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited, and the Real Estate Board.
It's Earthquake Awareness Month. We're raising awareness about earthquakes in the Seismic Dialogue. The Seismic Dialogue is brought to you by Digital Commodities, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited, and the Real Estate Board.
Two minutes after 7, welcome to Seismic Dialogue. This is aimed at promoting earthquake preparedness and safety. And as you know, January is being observed as Earthquake Awareness Month.
It's being observed under the theme.
Prepare for the quake, reduce the impact of the shake.
This year's theme highlights the importance of readiness and resilience. This is the last episode of Seismic Dialogue, and it has been sponsored.
Done already?
It done. I'm not giving out a P, I'm giving a P. It has been sponsored by Digital Commodities Limited, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, and Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited.
This week, we'll be focusing on the environmental impacts of earthquakes. For that, we're being joined by the head of the Earthquake Unit at the University of the West Indies, Kevin Tanku. Good evening, Kevin.
Hi, good evening, and good evening to the listening audience as well.
Very well. How do earthquakes affect the natural landscapes of Jamaica, such as its coastlines, mountains, hills, valleys?
Right. Well, this is quite an interesting swing in the earthquake discussion. As we take a look more on in terms of how our landscape itself might change, or how our developed areas might change. And we know with earthquakes, we tend to look at what would be the following hazards. And historically, we look at, historical events across the world, and we see that sometimes this sort of ground motion may propagate different type of activity. We can think of landslides, which considerably change, the face of a mountain or a hillside. We can also think about, following in areas where we might experience tsunamis. Mm-hmm. And you might have coastal inundation, or basically the coastline might actually be changed or affected because of these propagating hazards. So the natural landscape itself is something that is pretty dynamic. We know things are always changing, and the change might be accelerated by a strong earthquake or so. Again, this is in response to various site conditions or areas that might be more susceptible to this change.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of, for example, ecosystems, forests, that kind of a thing, what's been the effect of earthquakes on those?
Right. So we normally look at the environmental effects as direct and indirect. The direct effects is what we would consider as, those immediate or those ones that you can see right away, right? And we tend to restrict these to like structures, different buildings, etc. We may also have, things such as faults or landslides, changes in water level, all propagated. The indirect impacts, however, tend to be very unpredictable, and these are what may result in long-term problems. You can think of the fires that might destroy some sort of industrial area. You can get things such as contamination of your groundwater, your drinking water, and pollution from, if you have damaged water lines or any ruptured lines or so. Fuel, in this case here, can also be a consideration for what would, cause that sort of change. Mm-hmm. In our local ecosystem.
Do we have any documented, if you could, Kevin Tanku, give us some examples of how the physical landscape in Jamaica was altered by our experiences with quakes?
Right. So I remember tuning into the first session in January here, where you had, I believe it was Richard Thompson and Carleen Black from the unit. And, we made mention of the Judgment Cliff landslide in St. Thomas. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that landslide or that incident, but it has been something that has been of interest, not just for us locally, but for international, both academic and research community. And this landslide itself would highlight all of those, or that area where you have a susceptible section of land, or you have an area where it might be impacted just based on this geology alone, and an earthquake more than likely triggered that. And it's well documented, and it presents a prominent scarp or prominent landslide. That's quite an impressive feature. Mm-hmm. And we know over the years we've had various visits from foreign universities and researchers to examine this and to take a look at it as an example of the destructive nature of earthquakes.
And for those who may have missed it, give us the basic details surrounding Judgment Cliff.
Right. Well, Judgment Cliff itself is located in St. Thomas, in proximity to Easington, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correct, Landui.
Landui, yes.
Right. It's right in between in between those two communities there. And, it's documented as possibly occurring following the 1692 earthquake, where an entire cliff or that entire section would have basically collapsed. So it's based on the collapse point, or the area where you actually had that slip, that land slip itself, was primarily a clay layer, or, this area where it have less friction. As a result of that, it created this prominent scarp and buried the debris from that landslide itself, buried the underlying farming community, and there was some loss of life. I don't have all the historical details, but it's well documented, and it's something that we love to use as an example of what a strong earthquake in Jamaica can actually result in.
And if we have situations like that, Kevin, could we also face the prospect of, for example, our freshwater resources being affected, rivers, water quality? Could those things also be affected by quakes?
Correct. So in 1907, and this is another nice historical example, we have historical information or reports that well water, you had water ejecting from the water wells across Kingston in certain areas. And this is one of the things that we might want to focus on, that following a strong shaking, your well water might become turbid. So you would have more turbid, you would have more loose sediment from the cracks and the pores in the rocks that contaminate or, sort of create a high level of sediments in that water. Although this is temporary, it might last for only a couple of hours or maybe a few days or so. We also have to consider that these earthquakes or strong earthquake can also change a river course. You can have blockage in a river course. It can permanently change how a section of a river looks. And again, this is all, related to areas that might be more specific, site-specific, or areas that you might get, more susceptible to these change. But we also have to pay attention to some of the toxic components that could reach our groundwater and rivers. Considering the waste that might produce from, things such as if you have an emergency camps, from hospitals, electrical waste, anything from any labs, petroleum products, for instance.
Yes.
These all present a long-term effect, it creates that further damage or hazard.
Let me give you a doomsday scenario, because
Lord.
it's one that I've thought about ever so often when I think about earthquakes and the potential for a massive quake in Jamaica. Cemeteries, large cemeteries, let's say Dovecot, Meadowrest. You talk about the possibility of toxic contamination. In a situation like that, where you have those large cemeteries and a major quake, what are some of the possibilities?
The possibilities for something like that may be, individual. I think it would not be across the board, and it would be really, it would be, I think, a little too broad for me to say across the board, say for all the different sections in a cemetery. You might find some collapse. But those that might be older, those that might not be as well maintained, you can find some further collapse or areas where it's less compacted. There could be some considerable damage to certain, tombs or various burial areas. But again, based on how these tend to operate in Jamaica, there are several environmental laws. I can't necessarily speak on those. I don't know much about them. But, with respect to water and the surrounding areas and how it's treated.
And now that we come to the end of Earthquake Awareness Month, what has been the seismic activity like so far this month?
Well, thankfully, we have not, have had any felt events for the month. But we have recorded several local earthquakes. This would become clearer at the end of the month when we review and we pick out some of the smaller earthquakes that are less obvious. So when we take a look at our seismic record, there are those events that are pretty prominent. You just look at the screen and you can say, oh, that's something interesting. And it's likely, one of a regional earthquake or a big global earthquake. In this case, for this month, we've recorded a few local earthquakes. Thankfully, nothing has been felt so far to create any panic. I know we have always spoke about January being the most active month, but that's not necessarily the case in the last few years. We've seen that August, October or so trump these months here in terms of numbers. So far we've recorded a few local earthquakes, and I would say more so some regional or near region earthquakes from that same area to the south coast of Cuba.
Any particular areas, parishes where you're seeing a lot of the quakes occurring?
Nothing out of the ordinary. It's mostly been based on our locations. It's mostly been in eastern Jamaica in the Blue Mountain Block. And this is where we usually expect to record a lot of our smaller earthquakes.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin Tanku. He's the head of the earthquake unit at Mona. Thank you so much for being with us. And of course, in the event of an event, we'll be calling up on you.
Thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
I can't even find something to knock on. There you go. What do you mean by in the event of an event?
Yeah.
Let's hope not. Let's take the break. Come back with more.
It's Earthquake Awareness Month. We're raising awareness about earthquakes in the Seismic Dialogue. The Seismic Dialogue was brought to you by Digital Commodities, Conrad Douglas and Associates Limited, Coast to Coast Concrete Company Limited, and the Real Estate Board.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on January 28, 2025 for the Data Protection Symposium at the University of Technology, Jamaica. Join us at the premier Data Protection Conference of the year, where industry leaders, experts, and professionals gather to discuss the latest trends, challenges, and best practices in safeguarding digital information. It will be a day of data privacy, bridging the gap and navigating the next steps in data privacy. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on January 28, 2025 for the Data Protection Symposium, or visit the University of Technology, Jamaica. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the University of Technology, Jamaica.
The Watchman. Exploring issues shaping our society, government, and business. Provocative, unconventional. Dr. Henley Morgan is The Watchman.
Good evening. The People's National Party, PNP, a shadow of its former self. Assessing Jamaica's progress, or lack thereof, is ill-served by over-reliance on quantitative measures such as gross domestic product, GDP, and by signs of modernity, including the changing skyline of New Kingston, new highways, and expensive high-end motor vehicles choking city streets. To accurately assess the progress of the nation, one must first understand the purpose for which governments exist. The primary purpose is to provide opportunity for people to succeed. What that looks like could vary in the eye of the beholder.
Good morning and welcome to the newest addition to the Nationwide News Network family on Hot 102. Good afternoon, I'm Erica Allen. I'm Elizabeth Bennett. In Nationwide News at this hour.
This is Nationwide. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Carol Narcisse.
Morning, welcome to This Morning on Hot 102.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Beverly Anderson Manley. Good morning and welcome.
For 20 years, Nationwide 90 FM has been your trusted source for breaking news, delivering critical updates when you needed them most. 3:37 in the afternoon, we interrupt to bring you more from the Wandon Klansman gang trial. Another guilty verdict. With fearless, fact-based journalism that unearthed the truth.
Between 2012 and 2018, nearly $5.5 million was taken from the track legend.
And insightful commentary that sparked meaningful conversations and shifted perspectives.
Welcome to the front page. I'm Emily Crooks.
I am Naomi Francis. We're pleased to be joined by Roger Clark.
From the stories that shook Jamaica, we're having an earthquake, to those that inspired change and left lasting impacts.
In 2014, to be dealing with an issue such as the Mario Dean case.
Nationwide 90 FM has been there, diving deep into the issues that matter most to you. As we mark 20 years of dedicated service in 2025, we honor the trust you have placed in us and reaffirm our commitment to serving you, the Jamaican people. Rooted in truth, fairness, and integrity, we continue to provide incisive reporting with a foundation of accountability and respect. While we celebrate our journey, we are also focused on the future, fueled by the same passion and purpose that has always driven us. Thank you for supporting Team Revolution for 2 decades. Stay with us. The best is yet to come.
"19 minutes after 7 o'clock, well, the Caribbean and the world have lost a revered academic and educator who helped shape the modern foundation of the region's education system. Professor Sir Roy Auger passed away peacefully at his home yesterday. He was 100 years old. Ricardo Brooks takes a look at who and his record of Sir Roy Auger.
Born Fitzroy Richard Auger on December 17, 1924 in St. Lucia, Sir Roy's remarkable journey in the academic world began in 1954. He joined the University of the West Indies UWI Mona campus as a junior research fellow at the Institute of Social and Economic Research. Over the decades, his contributions to education and Caribbean history were unparalleled, leaving an indelible mark on the region. Professor Auger's career at UWI spanned many pivotal roles. He served as Dean of the Faculty of Arts and General Studies from 1967 to 1972, acting principal of the Cayville campus, and Pro-Vice Chancellor from 1972 to 1990. His leadership at UWI, combined with his extensive scholarship, made him an influential figure in the development of higher education throughout the Caribbean. A respected historian, Sir Roy co-authored several landmark texts in Caribbean history, including The Making of the West Indies 1960 and Sources of West Indian History 1962, The Report on the Rastafarian Movement 1961. These texts have shaped the understanding of the Caribbean's rich cultural and social heritage.
The context is to be found really in a short description of how Rastafarians got established in Jamaica. The link with Garvey is obvious, and it has to be understood particularly because it affects the later Rasta connection to the Eastern Caribbean, down to Guyana.
Perhaps most significantly, Sir Roy's work laid the groundwork for the establishment of the Caribbean Examinations Council, the CXC, where he became known as Mr. CXC. His visionary leadership played an instrumental role in developing the CXC as a regional body, and it continues to serve as a cornerstone of education in the Caribbean, shaping the lives of countless students across the region.
What you are proposing is a history which emphasizes European activities, Renaissance, Reformation, Industrial Revolution, wars between France, Spain, and France and the Dutch. This is not Caribbean history.
In recognition of his lifelong dedication to education, history, and the Caribbean community, Sir Roy was knighted in 1990. His influence extended far beyond the classroom and boardrooms. He was a mentor to a generation of students and a tireless advocate for the region's intellectual growth and unity. Sir Roy was also a beloved figure known for his humility, kindness, and unwavering commitment to service. As a teacher, administrator, and historian, he will be remembered not only for his professional accomplishments, but also for his deep and enduring impact on the lives of those who had the privilege to work with him. He is survived by his family, colleagues, and students who will continue to honor his legacy through their work in education, history, and beyond. The contribution of Professor Sir Roy Auger
have left an indelible legacy that will inspire generations to come. Ricardo Brooks for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Ricardo. And joining us now to reflect on who this giant of a man was, Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, and Professor Emerita of History and Gender Studies at UWI, Vereen Shepherd. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Hi, Professor Beckles.
Very good evening to you both.
Good evening.
Honored to be with you.
Good. Let me begin with you, Professor Vereen Shepherd. Locate for us, in the annals of Caribbean academia, Sir Roy.
Well, first of all, let me send my own condolences to his family and his friends and his colleagues, because just the other day we were celebrating his 100th anniversary of his birth, and now this is where we are. So, and then secondly, to say that I really want to focus on his influence on Caribbean history, because the making of the West Indies was a fundamental text done with other colleagues like Record, Hall, and others, and it really helps to shift our focus from the kind of inherited colonial type history. And while some people found the book difficult, its political mission was clear. And he took that political mission into CXC, criticizing the GC and, influencing us to shift to the CXC, because the political mission was to ensure that we knew something about ourselves and our contribution to history. And we did not just talk about and imbibe the narrative given to us that, Queen Victoria set us free, and that kind of narrative about British colonial history. So for me, that was fundamental. And he carried this throughout his life, because that was his mission. So that's where I want to start. A regional icon, somebody who did not imprison himself within the walls of academia. Others will speak. Of course, the VC can know him as, this and more in terms of his administration. But for me, that's where I want to start.
Sir Hilary, I'd like to hear you as well on how you see Sir Roy's contribution to the development of the history education in the Caribbean.
Thank you very much for this invitation, and I join with my colleague Vereen in offering condolences to the family. They are part of my family as well in so many different ways. I will take the opportunity to share a perspective that could be described as the macro perspective that supports what Professor Shepherd has said. When I met Roy O.J. some 45 years ago, when I first came to the Mona campus, it was clear to me that the best way to describe him is in terms of a Renaissance intellectual at a time when the colonization project was under stress and was being rejected by the people of the Caribbean, and needed intellectuals to support it. The workers were in rebellion, the progressive community was in rebellion against colonization. And the intellectuals had to come on board to support decolonization and to support nation building. And therefore, he was one of those foundation intellectuals who came to the support of the decolonization movement. So he was an intellectual decolonizer, and that was very important. Very important that he would have chosen UWI to do this, because UWI was set up as a colonial university, a part of London University, issuing degrees as London universities. And a time had come in the early 60s where it was said, no, we don't want, it's a contradiction to be a West Indian university of London University. And that was the model So it had to be put aside and allow UWI to become an independent university. And in much the same way that Jamaica became independent in 62 and Trinidad became independent in 62, UWI became independent in 63. So we had to be lock, stock with the political narrative of decolonization. And Roy O.J. was in the vanguard of that. He was a foundation leader. In that respect, he is a founder of the independent university. He linked that conversation to nation building across the region. So he was a pivotal figure in the West Indies as we know it now. And critically, I would say, before I end this part of it, Federation collapsed. 3 years, by the early 60s, it was collapsing. The question was then asked, how can you have a federated university without a federation? The movement, the political narrative was pushing for the breakup of the UWI so that it would be national colleges. Roy O.J. joined with Arthur Lewis, who was the vice chancellor, and they fought a battle of diplomacy across the Caribbean, urging the political leaders, urging Sir Alexander Bustamante, urging Dr. Eric Williams, and so on. Please do not break up the UWI. Yes, there's no federation, but we can still have a regional university because the people will need it. It will be the best kind of institution to serve the region, and it will be the leader of the educational agenda that all of you will want to have. So he spent a lot of time persuading the heads of governments, don't break up the UWI, but promote it, develop it, invest in it. So he was a nation builder, he was a visionary, and the historical part, which Professor Shepard mentioned, is absolutely critical because to achieve these objectives, you need to have your own history in good order. You cannot be exposing your citizens, your young people, to a diet of imperial history about all the things that interest the Europeans. You had to redefine the journey of your people. And so Roy O.J. took on the project of developing a Caribbean approach to historical writing that reflected our journey, our history, our triumphs, our travails, freedom, justice, democracy, black empowerment, African civilization. You had to bring those things into the classroom so that the citizens can know who they are. And that was one of the projects that Roy O.J. also promoted. So if you integrate all of that, you have the narrative of a man who was not only a powerful intellectual, but a man who was building young nation, bottom up, top down, sideways, and knowing what had to be done and getting on with it, getting on with reform, building institutions, and projecting the future. He was quite a phenomenal character.
Yeah. Professor Shepard, that legacy of, I'm going to call it West Indian identity, yes, that Sir Hilary laid out just now.
Yes.
Do you worry or wonder whether it's now under threat? Because we see increasingly Caribbean leaders sort of sometimes retreating into silos and taking up an approach that says, my country first. Do you worry that Sir Roy's legacy in crafting the identity Sir Hilary laid out is under threat?
I don't see it that way because when I look at the broad legacy that Sir Roy has, I see his disciples, you see? I see the students who were influenced by him. I actually met him through his work before I met him in person. When I went to the University of the West Indies and I went into his class, The Development of Civilization, I saw somebody who was not just, spouting from a text and from a book or books, but from his experience and his passion. And I think he taught a lot of the leaders in the region. Certainly, so many of us historians have been influenced by him. And we have a space. We have continued through the University of the West Indies, through CXC, and by the way, through what he was a foundational member in creating the Association of Caribbean Historians. because he realized that one person alone can, carry the burden. And so the training, the writing, and then the internationalization, the regionalism, because the Association of Caribbean Historians is not only about Caribbean people, it has a wide membership across the globe. So what I'm saying is that many of our prime ministers have been influenced by this history and influenced by Roy himself. So what you might see at a macro level that looks like the reality, maybe some of that is going on. But I guarantee that those of us who were trained by this revolutionary, because that's how I saw him, even when I saw him for the first time with his beard and his shirt, I said, this is a revolutionary. And so I'm not as worried as some people might be. Politics goes in different ways, but I see a core of people. I see a core of people who understand history. And I see that coming out through the reparation movement, because you need the history to inform the advocacy at the political level. So I see his legacy still standing.
Hold the line for us, Professor Shepherd, Professor Beckles. We're up on a break. Stay with us.
Apply for your Sagicor Bank Preferred Prepaid MasterCard today. Load your remittances for everyday spending. Receive cash transfers from any local bank. The time by Sagicor Bank is
7:35.
The following earthquake tip is brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. When the shaking stops, look around. If the building is damaged and there's a clear path to safety, leave the building and go to an open space away from damaged areas. The preceding earthquake tip was brought to you by Digital Commodities Limited. Telephone 876-960-8359.
We're looking at the life and work of Sir Roy Auger. He died yesterday, and we have with us Vice Chancellor at the University of the West Indies, Hilary Beckles, and Professor Emerita of History at the UWI, Vereen Shepherd. Professor Beckles, for the youngsters listening to us, they may not be familiar with the name. They may not be familiar with that this was a man who helped to pioneer West Indian history. But he was one of the fathers of what they now write at the end of fifth form, the CXCs and the Cape subjects. Tell us about his role in fashioning what we now call CXC and Cape.
Well, okay. Tremendous honor to speak about that, because I now perform that role as chairman of CXC, which Sir Roy also performed in the critical moment of its development. But the issue of decolonizing is very important, I think. And I think the youngsters in the high school systems and the colleges, they know that they are part of a process. They know that they're part of a movement. They might not quite understand it right now, but we always knew that decolonizing and nation building was going to be a complex process. It's not a straight line. There were going to be contradictions. There were going to be rise and falls. There was going to be setbacks. I mean, and there's something peculiar about the year 1924, in which Sir Roy was born. Frank Worrell, Michael Manley. Maybe there's something about 1924, because all of them, were part of an agenda, a Marcus Garvey reckoning of, tremendous intellectual power rallying around that Marcus Garvey vision. Sir Roy Auger, as a young man, came to Jamaica in 1953-54, never left. Frank Worrell left Barbados and came to Jamaica also in the early 40s and never left. So, there's something about 24 that we have to reflect upon. But throughout the school system, there is a dialectical crisis which we are treating with. History was seen as a foundation discipline in the development of the nationhood in the early period. I was one of those who wrote the Cape examination syllabus, because Roy Auger said to me, we have the O-level replacement in terms of the CXC replacing the O-level. Now we want the KIP to replace the A-level. So he called upon me and he said, listen, come and help with this. So it came in stages, it came in phases. But yes, it is sad for many of us that the governments, through their education ministries, no longer emphasize history as a mandatory subject in the school right the way up. So young people today have choices. They have choices. They can do a little history in the first 3 years of high school, and then they could drop it and don't return to it. So many of them would enter UWI without a grounding in history, and this is very sad. Now, CXC, of course, have done some research, have done some surveys, and we have recommended to all of the governments that history should be restored as a foundation mandatory subject for all West Indian youth, from the first forms up the way to the under sixth forms. We are waiting because ultimately it's not CXC's decision. It's the governments, whether they have enough teachers, whether they have space in their curriculum, whether they have facilities to accommodate. So we are waiting for a return to that period that Royal J fought for, that citizenship in the Caribbean requires historical identity. Identity requires historical education. Nation building, you need to know the foundations. So history, we saw it as absolutely indispensable. But right now, it has been dispensed with in large measure. And that is of concern to us. So the young people today are in what I call a contradictory moment of time, where they have exposure to some of it, a little of it. I know that when they enter the high schools, it is now a part of what is called social studies. So the history component is a part of a mixture of other things, a potpourri of other disciplines, and that is the approach we have at the moment. So it is not studied as a singular discipline with all of the literature that has been done, the research. So there's a wealth of literature, a wealth of research information that we would love to see all teenagers from high school, from bottom to top, immerse in this. We believe it will help them with their awareness, with their discipline, with their understanding of their own role in nation building, and it would help them to participate as citizens who are committed to the nation-building exercise. So what I would say, Roy would probably be saying to himself, I hope that soon we could enter into a conversation which I would call phase 2 of nation building. Phase 2 of nation building. We all set out on nation building in the 60s. We've had 60 years of it. What have we achieved in those 60 years? A great deal. What do we need to do in phase 2? So let us declare the next 60 years phase 2. And in phase 2 of nation building, let us recenter historical knowledge and historical experiences in building up what the citizen is. I believe it would help enormously with the issues of youth marginalization, the issues of antisocial conduct, the issues around inner city decline and decay. And note that the two countries of 62, the two countries that promoted what I call the 62 Project, Jamaica and Trinidad, are having the same problem in Kingston and Port of Spain. Mm-hmm. So there is something about this that I think we need to look at it regionally. Kingston and Port of Spain, the two 62 projects are having the same kind of challenges. I believe that a return to a discourse of historical awareness and so on will help very much in the next phase of our nation building.
Mm-hmm. And Professor Shepherd, that's something that you've advocated for specifically here in Jamaica for quite some time.
Yes, I share the concern about the fact that history is not a mandatory subject. I think I share with Prof. Beckles that concerned. STEM needs STEAM, and we have to ensure that our students get that message. We have been lobbying ministers of education. And the interesting thing is that Professor Beckles and I and other colleagues have written the text. No one can say where we don't have the kinds of books started by Professor Roy Auger to continue that narrative of decolonization. We have the books. And as you know, we have used the media in helping us to spread understanding of historical information. I had Talking History on this very station for 12 years. And other colleagues, where historians are constantly called on to shed understanding and enlightenment. And so I think if we are going to honor Professor Auger truly, I think a lot of the things that we have been saying, Professor Beckles, from this standpoint of CXC, I have been involved in CXC for years, through Roy, in fact, who brought me into being an examiner and a marker and the developer of syllabi over the years. So I think we have to continue the lobbying. I think Prof is right. But they can't lay at our feet any claim that we have not provided the information in text and in audio that will help our students to understand themselves. And if you look around, again, I return to the reparations movement. Today, for example, the National Council on Reparation had a dialogue with the Cabinet of Jamaica. You see the importance of knowledge of history in even backing any legal claim. We are constantly in demand. So this view that, well, there's no professional development through history, with what kind of jobs you can get, there are so many jobs you can get. It's not just, one-dimensional. So we have to continue the lobby, yes, and I think to truly continue the legacy of Professor Roy Auger, we need to take this on seriously. Because even in the book that people say the book is difficult, The Making of the West Indies, when you look at the table of contents, the political project is clear, starting with overturning the narrative of discovery and going right down. And he and others who wrote the book, they understood that some people were saying it was difficult. And in the book itself, they outline how it could be taught and how it could be broken down so every child would understand.
Thank you.
So we have work to do, and I think many of us trained by Roy are doing it.
Thank you so much, Professor Vereen Shepherd. Professor Hilary Beckles, Vice Chancellor of the UWI. Thank you very much for the reflections.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Tremendous pleasure. Thank you very much.
Good. After the break, your calls. The numbers to call us, 876-630-937124 or 618-8255.
Yeah, here? If you're tired of a cluttered office space, then you need to call Corporate Interiors International. We offer top quality industrial shelving, filing cabinets, and storage cabinets to keep your workspace organized and efficient, plus comfortable office chairs that will keep your team productive and focused. Visit us today at corporateinteriorsjm.com or call us at 876-630-0010 for more information. Corporate Interiors International. We sell solutions, not just furniture.
Good morning and welcome to the newest addition to the Nationwide News Network family on Hot 102.
Good afternoon, I'm Erica Allen.
I'm Elizabeth Bennett.
In Nationwide News at this hour.
This is Nationwide. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Carol Narcisse.
Morning, welcome to This Morning on Hot 102.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Beverly Anderson Manley. Good morning and welcome.
For 20 years, Nationwide 90 FM has been your trusted source for breaking news, delivering critical updates when you needed them most. 3:37 in the afternoon, we interrupt to bring you more from the Wandon Klansman gang trial. Another guilty verdict. With fearless, fact-based journalism that unearthed the truth.
Between 2012 and 2018, nearly $5.5 million was taken from the track legend.
And insightful commentary that sparked meaningful conversations and shifted perspectives.
Welcome to the front page. I'm Emily Crooks. I am Naomi Francis. We're pleased to be joined by Roger Clark.
From the stories that shook Jamaica, we're having an earthquake, to those that inspired change and left lasting impacts.
In 2014, to be dealing with an issue such as the Mario Dean case.
Nationwide 90 FM has been there, diving deep into the issues that matter most to you. As we mark 20 years of dedicated service in 2025, we honor the trust you have placed in us and reaffirm our commitment to serving you, the Jamaican people. Rooted in truth, fairness, and integrity, we continue to provide incisive reporting with a foundation of accountability and respect. While we celebrate our journey, we are also focused on the future, fueled by the same passion and purpose that has always driven us. Thank you for supporting Team Revolution for 2 decades. Stay with us. The best is yet to come.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on January 28, 2025 for the Data Protection Symposium at the University of Technology, Jamaica. Join us at the premier Data Protection Conference of the year, where industry leaders, experts, and professionals gather to discuss the latest trends, challenges, and best practices in safeguarding digital information. It will be a day of data privacy, bridging the gap and navigating the next steps in data privacy. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on January 28, 2025 for the Data Protection Symposium, or visit the University of Technology, Jamaica. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the University of Technology, Jamaica.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
It's Monday, get over your blues. Or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
The E-Zone is here for you.
With the Stinger Honeybee
and Karim Boyatting
from 3 to 5 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
We've got your entertainment news.
Then we want to hear your views. Why you say?
Jump in the mix.
Or the hot seat.
Don't miss our brain busters.
Or the crazy giveaways.
Let's talk fashion.
Send us your outfit of the day. Ooh, cutesy. Very demure.
Are you looking for love?
Come on one of our blind dates. Send your request to ezoneblindates@gmail.com. That's ezoneblindates@gmail.com.
And stay tuned for your confessions.
These are my confessions. Share them with us at ezoneconfessions@yahoo.com. I mean, is this planet Earth?
Is it?
I don't know. Let me check. Either way, it's got a buzz.
And a bugger thing.
Ow! Ow!
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. In the final couple minutes, I hear I'm going to call it the birthday promo running. Listeners nationwide is celebrating 20 years, 20th birthday this year. And listening to that promo, I hear some voices and I'm reminded why, as a listener, when I was on the outside, I liked Nationwide so much. It actually was about the news reading. I really liked the way the news was presented.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when I developed an affinity for the brand. So hearing some of those voices and remembering, oh yeah. Does it make you emotional?
Yes, it does.
Because that means your baby's no longer a teenager.
It's
a
no
young
longer,
adult. Yeah.
They're an adult now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you listen to Erica,
Mm-hmm.
Erica Allen, easily the best news reader on radio in the history of broadcasting in Jamaica.
Wow. I aspire.
I think Erica Allen was the very best. Yeah? And we have had some very good newsreaders over the years. And I think Erica was in a class of her own. You know? The consummate professional. She made reading so she did it so effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without an effort. And surely, you know, good evening, Erica, wherever you are. Yes, she's still very much with us.
Yes,
and you hearing her voice in the promo was, to me, it brought me back to the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, when she read the 5 o'clock news for us at Nationwide. This is after she had spent many years in the business at JBC, then Radio Jamaica, and then I offered her the job to be our news anchor presenter at 5. And she would have taught a lot of us, yes, how to do it. Yeah, of course. You heard Emily.
Yes.
You heard Naomi.
Yes. And Beverly Anderson Manley.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Beverly Anderson Manley used to host on Nationwide.
Yes.
I remember Carol Narcisse. I remember
Yes,
Carol Narcisse
Carol.
hosting Nationwide this morning.
Right. We gather there's an Andrew on the phone. Andrew?
Hi, Cliff.
Hi.
Evening, Cliff and Ricardo. How you doing?
Doing
Very
well.
good.
Good evening.
Although I'm upset with Ricardo still, I won't tell him why. When he pick up my voice, you will realize I remember. You mentioned Erica Allen as the best news presenter. You know, it was only yesterday that a colleague and I were discussing it. And the two that came out on top were Erica Allen and Megan Thomas.
Yes. Cliff actually just mentioned Megan to me.
Yes, Megan Thomas could read any news story and it's like you were seeing it.
Yes.
She would lift the words off the page and gently throw them at you. And you could just see what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
You were there and her voice was out of this world. I wonder where she is.
Megan died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Condolences.
Yeah, Megan died many years ago. Yeah.
Right. But Erica Allen, I remember going to primary school in the 80s and listening to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she is probably the best, yes.
I would think so.
But Megan Thomas is a close second.
Yes.
Very close second.
Yes. And only because Megan wasn't around as long as Erica has been, you know.
Right.
But Erica was the best. Yeah.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm.
It's a pity we can't, save voices like those.
Yes.
And for what it's worth, you see that Ricardo, who is sitting next to you there,
Uh-huh.
he's not bad, in 20 years' time when he's...
20 years' time?
Yes, man, in 20 years' time when we are talking about news presenters of the 2000s.
Yes. He will,
His name is going to be mentioned.
if he keeps at it.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm actually proud of him, although I'm slightly upset with it now. I lose our family something, but he's a good lad. He's a good journalist.
All right,
sir. Andrew.
Good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. Big ups to Cliff Hughes on the news presentation training.
Mm-hmm.
and your YouTubers are telling you congratulations on 20 years. Some are telling you that you need to open an academy for news readers because you've had some really good ones at Nationwide. Full Disclose says the critical thinking journalists in Jamaica were all trained at NNN. I won't read the next sentence. The next sentence is unkind. But Willow Will says 20 years. Congrats, Sir Cliff, for creating a dynasty in media. Hopi Sammy said, wow, time really flies. 20 years.
20 years. Started January 2005.
Yeah. Stay tuned, listeners. We're going to have some activities to celebrate the 20th birthday.
And we're going to give you 20 reasons.
Yes.
To do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right.
It's going to be good. Stay tuned. Dana Davey, thank you so much. Andrew Glenn Anderson, the man behind the controls. My colleagues in the newsroom, the very best in the business, led by our editor, Cara Powell, our sponsors, contributors, and you, our valued listeners. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Cliff Hughes, reminding you, take care of your loved one and look out for your neighbor. Good night.
Good night.
For over 30 years,